across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be your host for 3 hours of news, views and topical debate, frankly all on one story. I'll be with you all the way to 7 o'clock. Get on the show, get on the phone and call me by all means 03444 99 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Friday, July the 10th. Here's what's coming up. Shocking news as it emerges that after the sad and sudden death of political colossus Ann Widdecombe at the age of 78, police have launched a murder investigation into what happened at her house, where she lived alone on Dartmoor in Devon. They have just announced they are looking for a white male. The former Tory minister was found in a pool of blood in the bathroom, severely injured, we are told. There are fears that the former Tory minister turned Brexit Party firebrand was brutally slaughtered. A statement from Devon and Cornwall Police is expected later today. The astonishing development unfolded as luminaries from the world of politics and showbiz were paying tribute to an extraordinary woman who never married and who was never afraid to speak her mind, no matter how unfashionable her often old-school opinions were. She left the increasingly wet Conservatives, or as she put it, they left her, famously once denouncing her boss, Home Secretary Michael Howard, when she was prison minister, saying that there was something of the night about him. She, of course, joined Nigel Farage's Leave campaign and became a Brexit Party MEP in Europe. A devout Christian, she quit the Church of England over the decision to ordain women priests and became a Roman Catholic. Her reality TV appearances remain the stuff of legend, and without a doubt was the worst mover and best sport ever on Strictly Come Dancing. She was a one-off. They don't make them like Widdy anymore. She will be sorely missed. What a horrific way for a remarkable woman to go. We will stick with this saddest of stories throughout the show. By all means, phone in with your thoughts. 03444 99 1000. Don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend this very, very tragic Friday afternoon together. Now, let me go straight over to my first guest. He is the editor-at-large at the Sun newspaper. Welcome, Harry. Before we start, Ann Widdecombe's management have just issued a statement saying they are utterly devastated by the news and stunned that the police have launched a murder investigation into her death. Like the cops, they've urged anyone with any information to come forward. Harry, I can barely believe we are talking about the death of Ann Widdecombe like this. I mean, I would have got you on anyway to pay tribute to a one-off, a unique woman, a remarkable career both in politics and latterly in reality TV. And then we discover that police suspect she was brutally murdered. I mean, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I've been working on this story for about 5 hours now, Kev. It started, I mean, obviously woke up this morning and saw all the tributes, and rightly so, to the late Ann Widdecombe from across the political divide. A few bigoted trans people and gay rights activists dancing, you know, immediately on her grave in a sort of disgusting display. Disgusting. But we'll save that. Well, we'll save that for another day. But then my phone started ringing, Kev, and people were asking questions. And my understanding is that this police investigation has been ongoing, obviously, from the moment she was discovered. But it was, I think the police were keen to make sure that her family members didn't hear from the media that this was happening. So there was a concerted effort to a concerted effort to reach family members of Ann Widdecombe before making this statement. Obviously, this was doing around a slightly strange day of breaking, not just bad news of someone's death to them, but breaking news that perhaps they may have been murdered. And obviously, me and colleagues have got that story out there. So I'm still actually in a bit of shock, to be honest, Kev.
Well, we all are, Harry. I mean, you and I.
The fact she was on this very station, a regular on talkTV. Just 96 hours ago.
I think she was on Mark Dolan's show 2 days ago, and she was a very lively figure during the Makerfield by-election campaign up there. So when we heard that she died today, we knew it was sudden because she was in fine form, as you say,
exactly,
just 48 hours ago.
And was having something of a look. She wasn't the most mobile of people, but speaking to people in reform, they saw her as an absolute trooper. They would say, Anne, can you go and speak at this dinner up in X, Y, or Z? Can you come and speak at this church event? Can you come and speak at this, can you come and talk to these activists here? And someone told me, as long as I get a car, as long as you send me a car, I'll go wherever you want. And she would never, to the very end, would never let anyone hold her handbag, even though she was, not the most mobile person. And I understand that she had carers, at her house, and I believe it was a carer who discovered her body. But really interesting statement from the police, Devon and Cornwall Police now, who are saying they are assigning, they believe they know, well, they don't know who it is, but they believe they've identified a white male as being responsible. So they are asking for CCTV footage from neighbours, from passing cars, from anyone that in a pretty remote bit of the world, it has to be said, down there near Dartmoor.
Yeah, she lived in the village. She lived in the village bungalow in the middle of Dartmoor,
exactly.
But it wasn't that remote.
It does seem that the police investigation, although we're only finding out about it, much later than we found out about her untimely death, it does seem to me to be progressing. It does feel to me to be well underway, should we say?
Yeah, this is all we know, that she's found in a pool of blood, looks to have been brutally slaughtered.
The Sun reporting this afternoon that she's suffered a very severe head wound.
Yeah, that's it. It looks as if she could have been bludgeoned with an instrument in her head. So that's all we know, and we must not speculate any more than that. So if we can just talk about her career. I mean, she was unique, wasn't she? I'm old enough to remember when she stood up and called her boss, when she was prison minister in 1997, and Michael Howard was the Home Secretary, was her boss, and she stood up and said there's something of the night about him.
That one stuck, didn't it? I mean,
he never recovered from that.
Exactly, that will be Michael Howard's political epitaph, won't it? Something of the night. But it's a long career. People will remember from her various careers. She was a very, very stalwart conservative, and some people say the Conservative Party left her rather than the other way around. Then she had this almost remarkable secondary career as a Brexit Party member of the European Parliament. And my God, she gave those Eurocrats a good old roasting from time to time in the Parliament. If you got 5 minutes, go and watch her speech after Brexit has been achieved, when the Brexit Party, MEPs packed their bags and said goodbye to the circus, as you might say. Her goodbye speech to the European Parliament is one for the ages, I have to say. And then obviously a whole new generation of people discovered her through Strictly, where she knew what the joke was. She knew she was invited on Strictly to be the one that really, she obviously can't dance. And this sort of battle-axe, stern matron figure that we all had in our minds of Ann Widdecombe was softened hugely by the fact what a good sport she was.
Yeah, she was the worst mover and the best sport.
I think probably
worst mover and the best sport ever on Strictly.
Exactly. I don't think we're denigrating anyone to say she was the worst
terrible dancer. Terrible dancer
on Strictly Come Dancing.
She really was. Yeah, but she loved it, and she did have a sense of fun. Before we carry on, Harry, so we are. But let's have a quick listen to Nigel Farage paying tribute to Anne with Ian Collins on Talk Breakfast this morning, and this was before the shocking news of the manner of her death had emerged.
She is the best known female politician since Margaret Thatcher.
That's fair. Yeah.
I don't think anybody else comes close. And the fact that she was sporting enough to do, Strictly Come Dancing.
All of that.
a Big Brother.
Yep.
And then she was touring the country, doing one woman shows, an evening with Ann Widdecombe, where she talked to audiences, and she loved meeting people, and she was very gregarious, and she'd work hard during the day. And I remember in Brussels at 6 o'clock. I said, well, come on, Anne, what about it? Let's go out. And she'd have a couple of large whiskies and enjoy herself. Yeah. And as I say, she was a force of nature, quite a remarkable woman, and obviously a very sad, sudden death. And we'll hear more about that as the days go on.
So I only knew her. I used to have her as a regular guest, Harry, and I loved having her as a guest. She was one of my favourite guests. So we kind of built up a relationship like that, and she was always keen to come on. But I never actually met her. I didn't realise. I mean, I knew she wasn't Amazonian, but I didn't realise she was only 4 foot tall.
Yeah. An absolute pocket of rocket there. The other thing I think we should mention, we talk about her views on Brexit, her staunch conservative views, which also make clear she was also one of the most prominent religious people in public life. A devout Catholic. She was, in fact, I think, given
switched from the C of E because she disagreed with the ordaining of female priests.
Indeed, but she was eventually given a papal damehood. She was never afraid to, shy away from her religious views in public debate right until the end. Indeed, she was a prominent religious figure in public life, which is, we have to say, kind of rare these days.
Yeah, she never shied away. She was never afraid to stick to her often unfashionable opinions, old school opinions. You referred to her speeches in the European Parliament. Let's listen to one of them right now.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires, and that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going.
That's amazing, isn't it? That's amazing.
Alvin is a pet there, isn't it? I mean, you talk about never meeting her but realising she was so small. I think the last time I saw her was one of the Reform events, and it was hilarious because it was one of those ones when, remember when Nigel Farage sort of started to organise those big rallies with fireworks and like flares and lasers, and I've never thought I'd ever see the expression. I think I got it in the paper, which was, and then the crowd went wild, ... for Ann Widdecombe, and out she came, this tiny frail woman, while the smoke machines were going off. There were flares on the stage and lasers. I saw her later, almost like sort of Moses, clear path, as she was coming through. You know what those sort of political rallies and conferences are like. Out the back, there's lots of people milling around. And she was trying to get somewhere, and she was didn't barge through, but the crowd naturally parted for her, and a force of nature with her handbag.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about later in life. As I say, she revealed her sense of fun she went on to a number of reality TV shows. Let's not forget, by the way, they pay quite well, but she did forge herself a sort of second career. And I'll tell you why people loved her. It was because of her opinions, her political views. She said the things that millions of people think, but in our modern woke world are kind of slightly afraid to say. So I think that's what was her secret. She didn't care about what the fashionable, thoroughly modern Britain thought of her, and millions agreed with her. She had the common touch. She understood British people, I think.
Well, that's why I think her and Farage sort of get on so well. They were sort of chips off the old block, if that makes sense. They're kind of, you remember that famous Tory slogan back from her era, are you thinking what we're thinking? Well, it turns out millions of people, as you say, Kev, were.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, to go back to the manner of her passing, as I say, we can't speculate as to what happened. But, I mean, I suppose we're just repeating ourselves. But I just cannot... But I mean, you and I, we've been around the block a few times. I've covered some shocking stories. But, boy, oh, boy, this is... I mean, this morning, I actually heard last night that she'd died. So I was preparing for a big show today. And then this morning I started to hear rumours. Of course, about an hour or so ago, it was confirmed. I mean, I just can't quite get my head around it. Can you?
No, I mean, it's look, this is obviously a live breaking story, and we've heard a statement from the police. We haven't yet, they are obviously pursuing a suspect, but it would be remiss not to discuss, obviously, the elephant in the room here, which is this becomes amidst a debate, so to speak, sparked by reform about the security of politicians. What was Nigel Farage saying just earlier in the week? How he keeps it quiet because he doesn't want to encourage more things to happen. But we need to have a long, serious debate, I believe, about prominent people in public life and their security and their safety. And it's not a debate, Kev, for today, of course, but I think it would be remiss not to note that this is a famous politician of the right, a very famous politician who did, throughout her career probably did upset a few people, but that's kind of part and parcel of who she was. But at some point we need to have that serious conversation.
Yeah, and you alluded to what's going on Blue Sky, the social media site where all the nice people go to be kind.
Of course, it's meant to be Twitter without the hate. Well, I recommend not. I recommend not going to have a look. You know what? I've had a look for you. You don't need to read it, but you know who it is. You know exactly.
They're dancing on her grave. They're saying, "Thank
freaks."
God.
The blue-haired freaks have not wasted any time. They did it with Charlie Kirk. They're doing it to Ann Widdecombe.
What kind of people are they?
Sickos.
They really are. I mean, as the last point, really, Harry, this is the thing. She had very trenchant views, controversial views sometimes, never shied away from them. And she got the people on the left who thought she was a horrible sort of far-right ogre. That was the wrong view of her. I knew her well enough to know that in private, she's a very kind woman. I don't think she ever harmed a fly, if you will, in her entire life. She never did anyone any harm and bore no malice to everyone. And that's why this is so awful.
She was obviously a big advocate in the debate, the long debate long ago about, female priests and gay marriage and the like. But, one of her closest friends, the fellow broadcaster Ian Dale, has put out a statement this morning saying, this is just this idea that she was some sort of anti-gay bigot is ridiculous. He was pursuing a career in politics as an openly gay man, and she supported him at every opportunity. It was a debate of a different time. Times change, and would she have gone back and would she unpick what has happened? No, that's not how it works. You have the debate and you move on. So this idea that she would know that she's still. Peter Tatchell is another example. The gay rights campaigner is literally dancing on a. I hope for his sake he didn't know. He didn't know the circumstances of death when he put a statement out an hour ago, but the guy should be ashamed.
If I just as we part company, Harry, thanks for coming. I'll give you an example of her nuanced view. Me and her had a bit of a bust-up once. I usually agreed with her, but she actually thought that trans women, if they'd had surgery, should be allowed into male prisons. Now, that is not a fashionable view on the right, so she knew her own mind, and she was not just this block-out, I can't stand gays and I can't stand trans people. Yeah. She fought with the right over that and said if somebody's had the surgery, they should be allowed into women's prisons. So that just proves that her worldview was always nuanced. It really was.
Indeed.
Harry, fantastic to have you on. Carry on with the story. Thank you very much. Harry Cole there, editor-at-large at The Sun. Next up, we'll speak to Mike Neville, former Met Police detective, get the crime angle, if you like, get his thoughts on this. What will the police be doing now? Find out what the sort of cop angle on this shocking death of Ann Widdecombe is. Just to recap, police, after we learned this morning that at the age of 78, the political colossus Ann Widdecombe had sadly died. We later suddenly died as well. We knew it was sudden because 2 days ago she was full of beans on Mark Dolan's show here on Talk, where she was a regular guest. Police have now launched a murder investigation after Ann was found at her home on Dartmoor in Devon, covered in blood, a pool of blood, and it looks as if she'd been beaten badly, bludgeoned in the head. Police are searching for a white male. Shocking story, shocking story. So next up, Mike Neville, former Met Police detective. What will the police be up to now? What will they be looking for? What will they be doing in her house? We'll find that all out next. Stay tuned.
And I've decided today I will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea, thereby forcing a by-election, which would happen, I hope, in short order. No, I've decided that the people of Clacton should be the judges of my actions. This will be a people versus the establishment by-election.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Mike Neville, former Met Police detective, is in the studio. Welcome, Mike. Yeah. Now, as you know, things have changed today. The shocking news that Ann Widdecombe was murdered, or police suspect she's been murdered. They've launched a murder investigation. They found her apparently in the bathroom of her home on Dartmoor. I don't think it was a particularly remote home. It was a village. Yeah. She lived in a bungalow. And they've announced they're looking for a white male. What will the police be doing now? Obviously, our house is now a crime scene. Talk us through what will have happened from the moment one of her carers apparently found her, obviously called the police. What will have happened since then?
So the initial police response would have come out. Initially, when you're told an older person's died, you would have thought it was a non-suspicious death. So you arrived there, obviously. Somebody in the bathroom, that's very odd sometimes. That's often a place where people flee, and that's one place in your house you can lock yourself in, basically. If somebody's got terrible injuries, which possibly is the case here...
We think she did have terrible head injuries.
So the first thing, that, as a police officer, they're taught is to seal off the scene. The less people go into that scene is the key thing. They call it the golden hour. Yeah. Then they would have called in specialist scenes of crime officers, who would have been looking at all the wet forensics, the blood, DNA, fingerprints, all that sort of area. A senior investigating officer would be appointed, somebody who was like a similar rank to myself, a detective chief inspector or detective superintendent. Then in the background, you've got all the intelligence checks, what's been going on, who she's seen, checks. And then a key thing that's changed in the last 10 or so years is digital forensics. Things like, for example, if you're wearing an Apple Watch, that will tell the exact moment that you stopped, your heartbeat stopped, so you can actually pinpoint and then there's often people have been an MP and they're like, what security measures did you have? Home CCTV, Ring doorbell, all those digital things that you can get information from. Then in the background, all the intelligence checks, checking, has anything suspicious happened there recently? Has she contacted the police and said she was suspicious of things? So there'll be a whole series of things which were being coordinated. with the high-profile nature, of course, of Anne being such a former MP on the television even today, I would suggest that the local police, Devon and Cornwall, would appoint something like a gold commander, something like the assistant chief constable, who will be looking at the strategy investigation. The silver commander is the person who does the job on the ground, the detective chief inspector superintendent, and then all those other commanders are bronze. So
at this stage, how many coppers will be involved?
There'll be probably, in this sort of investigation down there, 40, 50 at least.
That many? Yeah.
At least.
And what will they be? Obviously, I assume, searching the house with a fine tooth.
And the ground. So you'll have dog units there, specialist dog units, searching all right. If somebody has suffered a terrible injury, how was that inflicted? Has a blunt weapon, has a knife or whatever, has that been left on the scene? So they'll have specialist dog units searching, specialist search officers looking around as well. So it'll be a really highly coordinated operation.
We're expecting a statement, funny enough, very soon from Devon and Cornwall Police. They have said they're looking for a white male. I mean, that is pretty vague. How does that help?
But what it tells us, though, is how did they get that information? So is there a ring doorbell? Is there what is it? How are they saying it's a white? So by saying that, they must have some intel. Somebody has either made a phone call, or I would guess there's some kind of CCTV or security camera which has captured something.
What about the local area? There'll be obviously door knocking.
There'll be house-to-house inquiries. Apparently, the venue is not so remote, so there's the whole village.
It's a village, it's in a village.
So the key things, for example, how do you get to that village? Is there a train station? Is there ANPR cameras around? All these things will be taken into consideration. There's so much more now than there was 20 years ago in the terms of local CCTV, ANPR, traffic cameras, all that sort of thing.
In your experience, this type of murder, who knows if it was planned or not, she's found in a pool of blood, as I say. We understand her head had been bludgeoned. Is there likely to be fingerprints, DNA, anything like that? In your experience, what would be the chances?
Of course. So there is, of course, often with fingerprints, you find that they're often left by idiots, really, drug addicts. Who would leave 1902 was the first fingerprint case, but people still manage to leave them. But the thing is with DNA, it's so little needs to be left now that there will often be some DNA evidence. But the key change for me is all the digital evidence that's available, the CCTV, the Ring doorbells, the Apple Watches, all those things just give the senior investigating officer other avenues to look down.
Well, just as a just as a human being, a citizen of this country, what are your personal feelings about this? I mean, I've been around the block a few times. I've covered some shocking stories, but this one was truly shocking.
Well, last month I was on a TV debate with Anne, and we were put together. We were supposed to be on opposite sides about debating whether people of 10 to 14 should go to prison. And I was very surprised. I was the villainous. Yes, they should.
Don't tell me you were the right one.
Oh, unbelievable! But I was told my opponent was Ann Widdecombe. I thought, I can't believe
she was quite liberal about prisons.
Well, but do you know what? We couldn't. We just agreed. It was rubbish. The debate was rubbish.
It was a rubbish debate.
It was a rubbish debate because we both agreed. Her social conservatism is my social conservatism. And I think she's probably everybody's, like, if you are a social conservative, she's probably everybody's favourite aunt. You know, that funny character. I remember walking back, I was in Parliament recently with a friend, and there she was, and she sat and chatted, and she was just like this favourite aunt who you can have a laugh with, who would come out with a witty comment, who was just decent, who was one of those old-fashioned politicians who actually believed in something.
Absolutely. And she, you know, I only knew her because I had her as a regular guest on my various shows here on Talk, so we got on quite well, and she was sort of quite scary, but the more you knew her, she was actually a very nice, kind of a woman.
Yeah, and as I say, she is your favourite auntie who would give you advice, point out that you're wearing the wrong shoes.
She gives you advice, all right.
Point out that you're wearing the wrong clothes or something like that.
Oh, she always did that.
Quality,
yeah.
And I just think it's a wicked end to somebody who's given so much and was really committed to this country being a great country again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because as I say, we were sad and shocked enough as it was, and then to learn of this horrific development is stunning, to be honest with you. Mike, thank you so much for that. That's Mike Neville, former Met Police detective. We're going to go to break now. We're still expecting this police statement around about 4:30, but if we don't get it, well, we'll talk next to former political editor at The Sun, now political columnist Trevor Kavanagh. We'll get his take on that next. May have to break off for Devon and Cornwall Police, but stay where you are. More when we come back.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to this very sad edition of Drive Time, where we are trying to get our heads round the shocking death of Ann Widdecombe, 78 years old. We learned, actually, I heard last night that she'd passed away, I assume, 78 years old, natural causes. It became official this morning, so we were preparing a big show, obviously, full of tributes, analysis of her remarkable career, her uncompromising politics, her extraordinary life. You know, becoming a kind of reality TV star later in life. We were preparing all that, and then suddenly we learned that it doesn't look as if her death was natural circumstances. Devon and Cornwall Police are officially launching a murder inquiry amid reports that she was found in the bathroom of her home, bludgeoned, blood everywhere, her head bludgeoned in. Police are looking for a white man, and a full investigation is on. Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, has issued a statement. I am deeply saddened to hear of the death of Ann Widdecombe. The circumstances of her death are extremely distressing, and my thoughts are with Ann's family and her loved ones. Ann's dedication to public service was decades long, and she was a true servant of her constituents. I have spoken to the Chief Constable of Devon and Cornwall Police today. The Home Office stands ready to provide whatever support they need with their ongoing investigation. I urge everyone to avoid speculation and allow the police investigation to progress. Kemi Badenoch, we'll get her full statement in a minute, but she apparently has said that she's absolutely stunned by what happened. I think before we knew of how she died, I believe the Prime Minister Keir Starmer issued a glowing tribute as well. So fair play to the senior Labour politicians who are joining the rest of us in shock and dismay at the way their long-term political opponent, Ann Widdecombe, died. Absolutely shocking. Let's go over to my next guest. He is the former political editor, current political commentator at The Sun newspaper, Trevor Kavanagh. Well, Trevor, we were all lined up to talk about all sorts of issues, but this is a one-story show, as you can imagine. I was going to ask you to pay tribute to her remarkable career, but first, your thoughts on the shocking news that a murder investigation has been launched, and she was in fact found in her home, a bungalow in a village on Dartmoor in Devon, with her head bludgeoned in, blood everywhere. Police are looking for a white man. A full murder investigation is underway. Your thoughts?
Well, it's very difficult to convey the thoughts because this is such a total shock, and it came to me out of the blue when a news service suddenly popped up with this announcement. We'd known that she'd died, and I was, as you say, ready to give a testimonial to this really quite remarkable person, not just as a politician, but as a human being. She had a rather tough image, there's no doubt about that, and I think she was happy to cultivate it, but actually she was a very kind and decent human being. And as you heard earlier, she was much more liberal and reasonable on certain things that she was regarded as absolutely hard line about in terms of crime and punishment than her public image would have suggested.
Let me just read a couple of statements this is from the Prime Minister Keir Starmer. He said it was really shocking news and praised Ann Widdecombe as a distinguished politician. Fair play to him for that. Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch said she was stunned to hear the police had opened a murder inquiry and said her heart is breaking for her family. So politicians of all colours coming forward to pay tribute to a woman who certainly lived life on her own terms. You must have known her reasonably well over the years, Trevor. I mean, I knew her quite well. I never actually met her in person, but she came on my show a lot. I found her both frightening and also extremely nice. Expand on what you knew of her, what the kind of person she was.
Well, I'd known her, as most political editors and journalists in the House of Commons did, for what seems like decades, ever since the period when she popped up as a health spokesman and then subsequently as a Home Office spokesman. And frankly, in all the amazing interviews and comments she gave over that period of time, many of which were really controversial, I think pretty much flammed up by other people, there wasn't a word I disagreed with. I think that she was the essence of common sense. And that was her great starring quality. I think that she was the female equivalent in some respects to Nigel Farage, but actually much more rounded in the sort of range of opinions that she had, political opinions on prisons and prison service, much more reforming and far forward-looking than many might assume from her. She had very strong opinions about British sovereignty, about law and order generally, but the economy. And she was a remarkable woman who had a much wider field of activities than any other politician, I think, of her generation.
People who know her well, perhaps you did, say that, you know, behind that kind of rather sometimes austere outside, she was actually good fun.
Yes, and I think that that image that she had of being austere was misleading to some extent, and had she had a less sort of forbidding external appearance, I think, which was quite pivotal in her own political career, I think she would have gone much further in British politics. I think she was the sort of person who might have galvanised the views of the British public during the period when Tony Blair was in office and all of the things that were introduced during that era, mass immigration, multiculturalism, all of that sort of thing. She would have been eloquent enough to strike a chord on that without necessarily stirring up real hatred or splits in society. And that's the sort of thing you need in politics, is people who can distill the views of the general public at large and actually act upon them and come up with really sensible thought out. She was a very thoughtful person, I think, is the way to describe her. She seemed like she was out for a fight all the time, but that was far from the truth.
Yeah, I always agreed with... I mean, that I think was her great skill as a politician, or her great natural gift, was that she said what many people in woke modern Britain thought but were afraid to vocalise. She didn't care. She just said it. And millions of people around the country who didn't dare say what she said in polite society in private were going absolutely 100%. And it is a shame, I think, that she didn't go further. Why do you think that was? Do you think it was because, frankly, as a politician, she wasn't that diplomatic? I mean, for journalists, she was a dream, wasn't she? Because no comment wasn't in her vocabulary. She always gave you a great quote. She always told you what she thought. Do you think that is why she didn't go further in politics, didn't get higher up the ladder, because she always spoke her mind and wasn't necessarily the world's greatest diplomat?
No, I think that that's true. I think that she was pretty blunt and unequivocal. And when you asked her a question, she would give you the answer she believed was right. And that was the thing that chimed with the British public. But in politics, generally, you do need the sort of finesse, the diplomacy, the ability to smooth your way through the sort of confrontations that are inevitable in all politics. And she wasn't bothered about that. She didn't care about whether people disagreed with her. She simply thought that if it was right, she would say it was right. And that was the most endearing quality about Ann Widdecombe. And as I say, I think that in other circumstances, and perhaps if she'd had a slightly different approach, I think she could have gone much further in British politics.
Yeah, a kind of a latter-day Thatcher almost, but perhaps not quite as diplomatic as Mrs. Thatcher. But she also knew how to stick the knife in if you got on the wrong side of her. Well, you and I are both old enough to remember 1997 when she was the prisons minister, didn't like the Home Secretary's approach to prisons, Michael Howard, who just wants to bang more people up, more and more people. They fell out badly, and she denounced him as having something of the night about him, her most famous quote, from which Michael Howard never recovered.
No, this was an enduring mark on British political history. Everybody who was around at that time and subsequently remembers this devastating remark in the House of Commons when she made a speech during the period when Michael Howard was preparing to run, or actually running, for the leadership, and after John Major. And she stood up and said, first of all, that she disagreed with nearly all of his policies on prison reform and that he wasn't the right man for the job. And of course, he came, as his folks came originally from Transylvania, which of course is the mythical home of Dracula. So when she said that he had something of the night about him, it had a particular resonance. He was the man with the teeth to bite your throat with.
Indeed, and a final word about this remarkable woman. She did in later life kind of reinvent herself as a reality TV star. A lot of people going, what a great sport she was. Well, those shows do pay rather well. Let's not forget that. But I was just talking to your colleague Harry Cole, the editor-at-large at The Sun, and we both agreed, I don't think particularly controversially, that Ann Widdecombe was without a doubt the worst mover but the best sport ever on Strictly Come Dancing. She was a terrible dancer, but she loved every minute, and the nation loved her on that show.
You got the impression that this was the first time she'd ever set foot on a ballroom floor, didn't you? And look, this actually reflected so well on her that she was prepared to make herself look a bit of a laughingstock on national television, and she didn't care. And this was the essence of Ann Widdecombe. She didn't care what other people thought, as long as she was giving them value for money, one way or another, either in political wisdom or in entertainment, being sort of bowled around the dance floor like a balloon.
Yes, she was. A last word, Harry and I also discussed this. Now, we've got to be careful here because we mustn't speculate about what happened here. We do know that she's died in shocking circumstances, blood everywhere, murder inquiry launched. Now, we don't know exactly what happened, or we don't know anything about what happened, but it does, Harry and I did say that, you know, given what's been happening to Nigel Farage, that this will trigger a debate about the protection of politicians, particularly controversial, famous politicians. I would suggest particularly controversial, famous politicians of the right.
Well, I think that it should trigger a debate, in fact, more than just a debate, when it comes to the protection of citizens generally. I mean, Ann Widdecombe's home was in the Dartmoor National Park, possibly, although I don't know, I've never been there, in a remote spot. She'd gone to a lot of trouble to make it her home. She called it Widdecombe's Rest. And, you know, in theory, she should have been safe as houses. And this, we don't know any of the details about what happened and who was responsible. And there may be a very interesting story, and always certainly is, behind all that. But, you know, this is simply another example of the way that life is really cheap in Britain today. You know, when someone's not safe in their own home.
That's shocking.
It is, and the way that you've described it, it is truly shocking.
It is shocking for such a remarkable woman for her life to end in this way. As I say, I can barely get you and I. We've covered some big stories, some shocking stories, but I can barely get my head around it. Trevor, thank you so much for coming on. Good to talk to you, Trevor Kavanagh, former political editor of The Sun, on the shocking death of Ann Widdecombe, who is now the subject of a full murder inquiry by Devon and Cornwall police after her body was found covered in blood in the bathroom of her home in Dartmoor in Devon, and a white male is being searched for by the cops. Full searches of the entire area going on, fingertip searches of her home. A full-scale murder inquiry is underway after the shocking death of political colossus Ann Widdecombe. We'll talk next to Samara Gill. She is our roving reporter. We'll get her take on all of this, so stay tuned. And if you'd like to get involved, you know, to maybe just pay tribute to Anne, or maybe just say how much you enjoyed her or didn't enjoy her on Strictly Come Dancing, Big Brother, the other shows that she went on to, or her political career, by all means, give us a ring. You can join us in our state of shock. 0344 499 1000. Samara Gill next. Stay tuned.
Labour, interestingly, saying they're considering an emergency law to deport that grooming gang leader. This is Shabir Ahmed, who served 14 years of his 22-year sentence for 30 child rape cases. He got less than 6 months. Basically, if you're going to be a child rapist, you know what, you may as well rape 40 instead of 1, because the sentence is basically the same. I mean, we're literally incentivising child sodding rapists.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are covering the shocking story of the suspected murder of political colossus Ann Widdecombe. Everybody was mourning her death this morning. We assumed at the age of 78 for natural causes, although just 2 days ago she was on Mark Dolan's show here on Talk, full of beans. So we certainly were saying this is very sudden. She was up in Makerfield recently campaigning for the Reform candidate, you know, a bundle of energy. So we knew it was sudden, but we didn't know quite how sudden it was. We are now trying to assimilate the shocking news that she was found covered in blood, we think, hit on the head with a blunt instrument. Police are now searching for a white male. In the studio is Samara Gill. Welcome, Samara.
Hi, Kev.
Devon and Cornwall Police are still threatening to give us a statement. They said there would be one at 4:30, but there will be one fairly soon.
5 o'clock, they're saying now.
5 o'clock, there you go, so 7 minutes or so. Your thoughts? It's extraordinary, isn't it?
I mean, it is actually shocking. Honestly, I'm shaking. I've got goosebumps. It's something that we didn't expect at all. And just to think, to put yourself in the shoes of what Anne might have been going through just before her death. She was on Talk on Wednesday. The police were called at 11 a.m. on the Thursday, so it would have happened sometime between then. I've heard from a friend close to her that she missed a TV appearance on Jeremy Vine, which was meant to go to, which was completely out of character.
I
mean, this was a stoic
She loved being
woman.
on telly.
Yeah, exactly. And she was a very stoic woman, you know. She was one of those, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Absolutely.
And she tried phoning, no response. She also reached out to her gardener, who, this is all alleged, but we believe that he found her in the kitchen, but I don't know about that because we're here in the bathroom, so I don't want to speculate too much on all this. But
what we do know that, you know, I don't want to go into graphic details, but she was found in a pool of blood.
Yes, and when you think about it, she was a lady, an older lady, who lived in a very isolated place out in the countryside. She used to get chastised for not having children and not having a husband. She lived completely alone, so whoever went and did this would have had a pretty open goal, unfortunately.
Also, I'm just looking at pictures of the place. We'll try and bring you some overhead pictures, but it's like a kind of a grandiose bungalow.
Yeah.
It's got a swimming pool about it. It's a very nice house.
Massive hedges on either side.
That's my point. It is surrounded by huge hedges. So if you got through those hedges or through the gates or whatever, you would not be spotted by anybody else.
No, absolutely not. She did live completely alone. We're hearing that, you know, she might have been found in the bathroom.
She had carers, but I don't think they were living. Yeah.
No. So it is very, very shocking, and I just hate to think what her last moments might have been like. I mean, this is really someone who, they don't make them like Anne anymore, you know. She was a politician of conviction. She stood by her guns, and I just hope that this isn't politically motivated, because if it is, it's going to be a very, very dark day for the right in this country.
Well, look, talking of that, let's hope it's not. But if it is, I really don't want to speculate too much. That would be irresponsible. But if it is, all hell is going to break loose. All hell will break loose. And do you know, on the Blue Sky social media site where all the lefties go to be kind, if you go onto Blue Sky right now, it is full of people, animals, celebrating the death of Ann Widdecombe because of her trenchant views about trans rights, gay priests and so on and so forth.
Anti-abortion stance that she had.
She had old school, unequivocally right-wing opinions, and she stuck to them, and good for her. You know, whether you agreed with her or not, she was a woman of very strong convictions. And there are people out there who don't like that. They didn't like her views. And let's hope that did not make her a target. But if you look at Blue Sky right now, it looks like she could have been a target. These people, these trans people, are just dancing on her grave. What is wrong with them?
Oh, I mean, for a long time, since the murder of Charlie Kirk, which I remember we broke on your show, formerly The Political Asylum, which was absolutely shocking, and that happened in real time when we were on air. You know, the left wing is a death cult. They celebrate the murder of people that they disagree with.
They don't like,
Absolutely. And, you know, Peter Tatchell's tweet this morning was just sick, you know, effectively kind of words of jubilation that she was dead. And it just makes you think, where have we got to in this country with the way that everyone's so polarised? No one can agree. And violence is apparently one of the only answers. You know, I was just at a rally a couple of weeks ago where they said, shoot him in the neck like Charlie Kirk. That's about right. Tommy Robinson. And look, agree or disagree with Tommy Robinson and his views and his textured past, but violence shouldn't be the answer at all. Again, we don't know. You know, she was also a TV star. She also had quite a bit of money. This could have potentially been a robbery gone wrong. We don't know the details now. Hopefully the police statement gives us a little bit of clarity as to what is going on, because I can only think of the worst, Kev.
Yeah, I mean, I fear the worst. I hope it's not true, but you cannot help but wonder, was this politically motivated? If it was, as I say, all hell is going to break loose, and well, it should. Few words about her career, her political career. A woman of the right. She left the Tory party, or as she put it, the Tory party left me, because she said it just became insufferably wet. So she teamed up with Nigel Farage in the Brexit Party to campaign for leave, became a firebrand European MP in the EU Parliament, making famous speeches. She quit the Church of England because she didn't agree with ordaining female priests and joined the Catholics. She was a very devout Christian, became a Roman Catholic. So she stuck to her guns no matter how unfashionable and old school they were.
God, yeah, sometimes I just wish that she would have been in charge of things. I think that the country might have looked different. I mean, when you think about, she was the only MP to vote against both the Equality Act and the Climate Change Act. So think of how ahead of her time she was with these thoughts and sort of her edict towards politics and her political prowess. It is a very, very sad day for Britain.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something, she was nuanced. The only argument only argument I ever had with her on air, we used to get on very well, but she said that she thought that trans women, blokes who've had the surgery, should be allowed into women's prisons. And I said, I don't agree with that. And she you know, she tore me to shreds. So that was an unusual, nuanced view from a woman you always expected to be on the right side of an argument. On that one, she was on the left side of the argument. So there you are. Samara Gill, thank you very, very much. Lord Daniel Hannan next. Stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to this special and tragically sad edition of Drive Time, where we are trying to get our heads around the fact that political colossus Ann Widdecombe, as Nigel Farage said, probably the most famous politician, female politician in this country, has died. But not only died, police have launched a murder investigation after she was found in a pool of blood at her home in Dartmoor in Devon. Let's move on to my next guest. He is Lord Daniel Hannan, independent peer and director of the IEA. Daniel, thanks for joining us. I was going to get you on anyway to pay tribute to this remarkable woman, but you know, events have overtaken us, and we are trying to digest the absolutely astonishing nature of her death. I mean, if you can, your thoughts as we learn that Devon and Cornwall police have launched a full-scale murder investigation after her body was found clearly having died in violent circumstances. Your thoughts?
Well, obviously, a murder is especially horrific and far worse than a normal death. But I'd rather not spend the whole time we have now talking about the circumstances of the murder. I wouldn't want to lose sight of paying tribute to this extraordinary politician who, she was the kind of strict aunt of the nation, wasn't she? Like a sort of P.G. Wodehouse aunt. And there was this kindness, as there is often with aunts, underneath. And I think people found it very appealing. And we shouldn't allow the tragic nature of her death to detract from the extraordinary pleasure and happiness she brought to other people in her life.
Yeah, well said. Exactly right. I suppose what I'm trying to say is I find the manner of her death, given what a remarkable woman she was, what an incredible career she had, I find the circumstances of her death almost infuriating. I'm really angry about it. She shouldn't have had to die like that. Bad enough that she died, but to die like that is absolutely shocking. But let's return to her career. You must have known her fairly well, Daniel. Tell me what you thought of her as a person, because she had, as you suggest, this sort of austere exterior, but I knew her reasonably well, and behind that austere exterior, she was a very kind, often very funny woman who liked a good time, actually.
Yes, all of that is true. So I knew her quite well. I was the member of the European Parliament covering the part of Kent where her constituency was, so we did a lot of things together. And, you know, she had this public persona as being very tough. You know, she first came to public attention when she wanted women prisoners not to be unshackled when they were in labour, you know. So she had this kind of very severe public personality, and yet anyone who knew her will tell her that there was always a playfulness and a warmth which shone through. Now, that's not to say that the public persona was fake. I mean, for example, I don't think Anne ever really accepted that divorce was an acceptable thing. She was a great stickler for old traditions and old rules and norms, but it was always tempered by this humane and likeable side. And she had a gift for friendship across parties. Actually, you know, she came very late to Euroscepticism. But then, of course, she stuck with it grimly and politely, as she did everything. So I knew her as a Tory, then as a fellow MEP for the Brexit Party, and then when she went over to Reform. And I like to think we were friends throughout, and I suspect that almost anyone who knew her in the political arena from whatever party will say something similar.
Yeah, I mean, she was actually nuanced. She could surprise you with her views. I had her as a regular guest. I never actually met her in person. Never realised she was only 4 foot tall, by the way. But I had her as a regular guest, so we had a sort of a remote friendship, if you like. And I always agreed with nearly everything she said. But once, the only row we had on air was when she rather surprised me when she said that she did believe that trans women, you know, men, should be allowed into women's prisons if they break the law, if they're sentenced to a jail sentence, as long as they've had the surgery. So, you know, that was a typical Ann Widdecombe moment. She could surprise you with her views sometimes.
That's another way of saying that she thought things through for herself.
Yeah, yeah.
And didn't take second-hand opinions from other people, which, of course, a lot of MPs do. You know, they're busy people and they take the party line. And she never did. I mean, another example of that was that she was one of the very small number of Conservative MPs who wanted to outlaw fox hunting and voted at every stage for the hunting ban. You know, she argued for it in such a convincing and cheerful and funny way that it was very hard for the pro-hunting people to resent her.
And that was another area where we admit, Anne and I agreed, actually. That's one of my rare diversions from strict right-wing thinking. But
do you remember, she made a very funny speech because she was satirising the argument that all the jobs would go. And she said, well, of course, if we abolished crime, there'd be no more coppers. And if we abolished sickness, there'd be no more doctors and nurses. But that's hardly an argument for not doing it, which I thought was a very fair point.
Do you mind if you could bear with us, Daniel? The Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has just given a statement about this murder investigation, and we're just going to play what he had to say.
Well, this is really shocking news. And my thoughts, I think all of our thoughts, will be with the family and friends of Ann Widdecombe at this awful time for them. Ann was a distinguished politician over many, many years with many achievements, and it's a huge, huge loss. I've spoken to the Chief Constable this afternoon about the details, and I think this is really important, that this is a moment where we rise above any political differences, the political divide, and say the single most important thing at the moment is that all of us and the public help the police identify the individual suspected and make sure he's arrested as quickly as possible. He's clearly dangerous, and I implore everybody who's got any information in relation to him to help the police with their inquiries, get him into police custody. To that end, I've spoken to the Speaker of the House, I've spoken to the Leader of the Opposition, I've spoken to Nigel Farage as the Leader of Reform, and I've spoken to Andy Burnham to urge everybody to come together at a moment like this and to urge everybody to help the police. But go back to where I started, my thoughts are very much with the family and friends of Ann Widdecombe, a distinguished politician over many, many years.
I think it's a testament, Daniel, to her likeability in so much as politicians from all sides of the fence, particularly Labour MPs, Labour politicians like Keir Starmer, Shabana Mahmood, talking very generously, very nicely about this woman. Kemi Badenoch, probably more politically aligned to her, said that she's stunned by the manner of her death and her heart is breaking for her family. So lots and lots of kind tributes from politicians, all sides of the House. I think does prove that, although I'm sure many of them disagreed with her profoundly, she was, behind that austere exterior, a very likeable person.
Do you know what? And I'm now going to lose all of your listeners, but so are most MPs. You know, most MPs, like Anne, are doing their best, and it shouldn't take a tragedy like this, or the murder of Joe Cox, or the murder of David Amess, for people to acknowledge that, right? The country would be a happier place if we remembered more often that these are people who have chosen to go into a life of service. And, you know, of course, I don't disagree with the word that Keir Starmer was saying there. This is one of those moments when party politics would be completely misplaced.
What about, did you follow her sort of latter career as a reality TV star? I've been agreeing with most of my guests today that she was without a doubt the worst dancer but the best sport that Strictly Come Dancing ever saw. She had the time of her life. Trevor Kavanagh just said to me, I think it must have been the first time she ever set foot on a dance floor. She was a dreadful dancer, but the nation loved her when she was on that show.
Absolutely, and captured a whole generation. I remember some years ago, I was passing through Oxford with my wife, and my wife, who'd been an officer of the Oxford Union, took our then 2 little girls in to show her own photograph as a former officer, and our two little girls were feigning polite interest until they spotted the picture of a young Ann Widdecombe as an undergraduate in another Union committee photo, and suddenly they were squealing with joy, remembering that flying across the stage thing on Strictly. And there are not very many people who had that capacity to captivate people's imaginations like that. Yes, she was leaning into a caricature, but she knew exactly what she was doing, and there was a little twist of mirth at the corner of her mouth when she did it. She knew perfectly well that she was inhabiting this larger-than-life persona that people had created for her, and she was, if you like, joining in the joke herself.
Absolutely. On a more serious note, she actually delivered one of the most famous moments in modern political history, proving that if she felt like it, she could twist the knife. That was that famous moment in 1997 when she was the prisons minister and Michael Howard was the Home Secretary. They disagreed about prison policy. And so badly that she stood up one day and said there is something of the night about him. His family, his antecedents were from Transylvania, so the illusion was not lost on anyone. And in a way, Michael Howard never recovered from that.
Well, do you know, I have on my bookshelf over here a copy of Bram Stoker's Dracula given to me by Michael Howard at the end of that campaign in 1997, and inscribed, you know, to all the survivors of the Something of the Night campaign. I mean, he eventually came to see the joke, and actually, there was a quite funny moment when, immediately after the election, all the Tory frontbenchers kind of moved into the shadow position of what their previous office had been. So he was the shadow Home Secretary, and Jack Straw was the incoming Labour Home Secretary. And to everyone's surprise, Jack Straw copied an awful lot of the policies that Michael Howard had put in place on prison building and policing and sentencing. And Michael, I remember, leaning into the joke very well, saying, you know, it's been said that I've got something of the night about me. Well, you'll all know from mythology that creatures of the night have no reflection when they look into a mirror. So, Mr. Speaker, the whole House will appreciate how relieved I feel when I stare across the dispatch box and see my reflection looking back at me. So it was
really good.
I thought it was a pretty good way for him to lean into the joke.
That's very good. With her view on prisons, I mean, I wasn't going to cover any other stories today apart from this, but I think this is germane. There's a story today that I think Ann Widdecombe, I would have got her on about it because, boy, oh boy, would she have something to say about it. There's a place called Moorland Prison. I don't know if you've seen this story, but it's emerged that the governor and the chiefs of that prison invited a drag queen in to entertain sex offenders on LGBT Sports Day. LGBT Sports Day was held to celebrate Moorland Prison's diversity. I wonder what Ann Widdecombe would have had to say about that. Oh. That was a good question, just as the point. I'm afraid that Daniel has frozen. It always does it at this kind of point, doesn't it? Are we going to try to get him back? Yeah, let's... Yeah, I'll tell you what we'll do, I'm afraid. I wonder what Anne would have thought about that. It was one of the stories I was going to do. There's Moorland Prison. Just to think about that, folks. The governors, the chiefs there. It's just emerged, story today. I would have got Ann Widdecombe on to get her views on it, because I know what they would have been. I can hardly believe it. But they invited a drag queen, they hired a drag queen to go in and entertain sex offenders in jail on LGBT Sports Day. They were holding this event to celebrate the prison's diversity. I mean, stop the world. I want to get off. It has gone insane. Unbelievable, unbelievable. Next up, I'm going to talk to a veteran Tory bigwig, Sir Roger Gale, who knew Ann Widdecombe very well. I'll get his thoughts on her death and the shocking nature of her death. Devon and Cornwall police have launched a murder investigation after Ann Widdecombe's body was found, we think, by her gardener, one of her carers, in her house, in the bathroom or the kitchen, we're not quite sure, covered in blood. Police are looking for a white male. It is believed she was bludgeoned to death. We'll talk to Sir Roger Gale next. Stay tuned.
Labour, interestingly, saying they're considering an emergency law to deport that grooming gang leader. This is Shabir Ahmed, who served 14 years of his 22-year sentence for 30 child rape cases. He got less than 6 months. Basically, if you're going to be a child rapist, you know what, you may as well rape 40 instead of 1, because the sentence is basically the same. I mean, we're literally incentivising child sodding rapists.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're going to replay the Prime Minister Keir Starmer's statement about Ann Widdecombe in just a second. In case you haven't heard, who's just joined us, Devon and Cornwall police have launched a murder investigation after political colossus Ann was found in a pool of blood at her home in Dartmoor, in a village in Dartmoor in Devon. Nice message from Devon, from Francis. Hi, Kev. I cannot believe what's happened, says Francis. I'm in total shock. I saw Ann in Dawlish Library a few months ago. She gave us a talk about her life in and out of politics. She was interesting, humorous, and very matter of fact. We all loved her. She was also my mother's MP in Maidstone and did great things for her constituents and was held in very high regard. What on earth is happening in this country? I think a lot of people will be thinking exactly what Francis is thinking. You know, who knows why she may have been murdered, why she may have been attacked. Who knows what the reason was, but the fact that she was, the fact that a 78-year-old remarkable woman died in that fashion does say something about this country now, and that's what Francis is saying. What on earth is happening in this country? I don't know, Francis. I really don't. Now, let's go on to my next guest. He's a former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons and the long-term Conservative MP for Herne Bay and Sandwich, Sir Roger Gale. Sir Roger, welcome to the show. Just your thoughts on the shocking news today that Ann Widdecombe is now the subject of a murder inquiry after being found in a pool of blood at her home in Devon.
Horrified. Well, it was bad enough losing a friend relatively prematurely. But that was one thing. And we were able to express condolences. But to now learn that Anne may well have been murdered is horrific beyond belief. This is a relatively elderly lady, and a real lady, by the way, living on her own with her cats in a cottage on Dartmoor. There are other buildings around, but not very close. And the fact that she may have died in this fashion, to me, is beyond horrific. It's awful.
It really is. I mean, she just... I feel kind of furious about it because, you know, I knew her reasonably well. She was a regular guest on my show. I kind of loved her. I was a bit frightened of her, but she was a nice lady, a kind lady. And whatever you thought of her politics, whatever you thought of her stance, she was an extraordinary woman with a remarkable career, and she shouldn't bloody well have died like this, should she?
Absolutely not. I mean, you say she was a remarkable woman. I described her as delightfully eccentric, very formidable, an excellent and very tough minister. But of course, she was a Home Office minister, and she must have made enemies there. But a woman of also tremendous faith. She was High Church of England and then moved across to join the Catholic Church. There was a thought at one stage that she might have become our ambassador to the Holy See.
Yeah.
And I think she'd have been very good at it, by the way. I don't know whether she was offered it and turned it down or whether she wasn't offered it, but it would have been an inspired appointment. But an amazing lady and great fun as well. And this is just, you know, the idea that somebody of this caliber with still so much to offer could possibly have died in this horrific fashion is just, as I said, it's beyond terrifying.
It's very difficult to get your head around. It really was. We were all geared up today, of course, to do a show full of tributes to this poor lady who had passed away when we had no idea how she had passed away. But let's just concentrate on her career, if you don't mind, Sir Roger. Assess her as a politician. I was discussing earlier with Trevor Kavanagh from The Sun, as he was saying that he always thought, he knew her very well, of course, a veteran of Westminster like yourself, he always thought that she could have gotten a lot further in politics if it wasn't for her penchant for straight talking. She just said exactly what she thought. Journalists loved her because no comment was not in her vocabulary, and it may be her propensity for saying exactly what she thought, not really caring, that maybe stopped her going as high as she possibly could have done.
That's very possibly true. I would say stoically bloody-minded. I went into the House in 1983. I'm still there, of course. Anne came in 1988, so I was almost an old hand when she was a new girl, but by God, she didn't half make an impact. And as you rightly say, she knew what she thought, and she said what she thought, and she believed what she thought and said. And what you saw was what you got with Anne, but you also got, if she was a friend, and I'm proud to say she was a friend of mine, a very good friend. We fought campaigns together. We were with David Amis and Anne, myself, and Teddy Taylor and a couple of others. We fought the Conservative side, not fashionably then, against fox hunting. Anne was passionate, as David and I are, about all manner of animal welfare issues. So we worked a lot on those. But whatever she did full belt, and she believed it.
Yeah, that's. I mean, you, David Amis and Ann Widdecombe, you know, not quite the Tory line, is it? For me, well done, all three of you. I'm with you there. I'm not usually on that side of the fence, but I don't like cruelty to animals. So good for the three of you. But when you, Sir Roger, say then, oh, me and Ann Widdecombe and David Amis, you know, we think of David Amis as well, you know, who of course was brutally murdered. I've just had a text from one of my audience who lives in Devon, who recently saw Anne giving a speech at a library in Dawlish, and she said I can't believe how she's died like this. I'm so sorry. And then she says, what on earth is happening in this country? So you think of Anne, you think of David Amis. So, Roger, what on earth is happening in this country?
Well, we have two choices, don't we? We surround ourselves by a ring of steel, which none of us want to do, or we are approachable and we take risks. And if it's got your number on it, I guess it's a terrible thing to say, but it's going to get you, but not like this. I mean, these David's murder and Anne's apparent murder are, you know, horrific is not a strong enough word. They are beyond appalling, both of them. And I freely concede, you know, when David, I heard, I was actually on a cross-channel ferry at the time, and I heard that David had died. And I was in the middle of an interview at the time for radio. We knew he'd been injured. And then my wife told me that he was actually dead. And I on air, I just burst into tears, I'm afraid. And I don't normally bawl. But I freely concede I shed tears for Anne when I knew she was dead. And that was before this.
Now, by the way, Sir Roger, that was on this channel. The guy who produced the show, he is producing this show. He said, yeah, that was us.
Well, it might well have been.
Now, let's away from the political arena, and when she wasn't dancing on Strictly Come Dancing, what kind of a person was it? I mean, I'm hearing, you know, she was actually great fun, liked to drink, liked a good time.
Great fun. I mean, I'm told, I mean, she was, how can I say this with chivalry? I mean, she was slightly chubby when I knew her, but apparently at university, she was an extremely attractive young woman. And I'm not sure whether using the phrase party girl with Anne is quite the right phrase, but she certainly enjoyed having a good time. And she was fun. I mean, up till the day she died, she's always been fun. She takes her subjects and her commitments very seriously indeed. She doesn't take herself very seriously, never has.
Indeed. Well, that's as we saw on Strictly Come Dancing, our consensus here is she was the worst dancer but the best sport ever on Strictly Come Dancing. The nation loved her. We're just looking at some footage of her now. I mean, she truly was an appalling dancer.
Somebody said to me, you know, why... I used to be a television producer and director, and they said to me, why did so many people book her? And I said, by God, I mean, because she's box office.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. She's compulsive viewing. She's got something to offer. She may be useless at it, but she gives her all for it, and that's why I think so many people genuinely loved her as a person.
Yeah, indeed. I used to be a TV critic, and you're right, she was box office on TV. That's why so many reality TV shows battled for her services. They couldn't wait to sign her up. So she did very well on the reality TV front. Politically, what did you think when she quit the Tory party? How did you two, as good friends, resolve that parting of the political ways?
Well, I'm not sure those ways parties in quite the way that they've been perceived. Bear in mind, Anne was very pro animal welfare. Farage is not known for his love of animals, and neither are most of his party. These are the people who used to physically or metaphorically enjoy the hunt. Anne never did. And it was an odd move. I think, again, there was an element of bloody-mindedness in it, that it was, you know, I'm going to nail my colours to this mast because I don't like Europe and what Europe stands for and all the rest of it. But I don't quite know how to say this because I can't prove it or disprove it now, and it's too late. But I got the impression that she might have liked some things about UKIP, of course, which she joined originally. But I don't think she had any affection whatsoever for Mr. Farage.
Perhaps not, but he did release a very nice statement about him, and he did say, and I think this is true, interestingly, that, you know, was until yesterday the most famous female politician in this country.
Yeah. Living politician, yes, she probably, certainly in the top 2 or 3, but certainly, yes, but I mean, there will be people it's your generation and mine who know, well, particularly mine, and you're much younger than me, but younger people will probably not have known Anne in the way that you and I have, and your colleagues who are journalists know. Obviously, she, as you said, she's a good box office, so she was always there with a quote. But the point about her quotes was she wasn't a dialogue quote lady. But just ring her up and say, Anne, would you comment on this? If she had nothing to say about it, she'd say no.
Yeah, I know. I'm well aware of that. Lastly, Sir Roger, I mean, difficult question, but what will you remember Anne for most?
Her love of animals. Her cats. I mean, I've got on my Facebook page, I've found, my office found for me a wonderful photograph of Anne with her black and white cat. She loved her cats. She loved her animals. She loved all animals. And for anybody who is committed to the cause of animal welfare, she was a great, great body to have on side.
Absolutely. I'm committed to the cause of animal welfare, so I didn't really know that about her. So that is good to hear. Good to hear about you as well, Sir Roger. Thank you so much for coming on. Sir Roger Gale there, Conservative MP for Herne Bay and Sandwich, who have known, as you just gleaned, has known Ann Widdecombe for many a long year. A spokesperson for for us, I nearly said the Prime Minister, the incoming Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, said, Andy's deepest condolences and thoughts are with Anne's family today in incredibly distressing circumstances. Anne gave a lifetime of public service, and it is absolutely right that the police put all their resources into investigating this as swiftly as possible. That is Andy Burnham, who in a week or so I think will be our Prime Minister. What do you mean I think? He will be. Right, let's go to break. When we come back, we'll speak to the head of campaigns at Popular Conservatives, Andrew Allison, get his thoughts on the shocking death of Ann Widdecombe this morning. We thought she'd just passed away about 2 hours ago. We discovered, to our horror, that she was at the centre of a murder investigation by Devon and Cornwall police, and they are searching for a white male after Anne's body was found in her home. Brutally slaughtered, to be honest with you. Let's not beat about the bush. Well, it looks as if she's been brutally slaughtered. Let's go to break. Andrew Allison next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We are paying tribute to Ann Widdecombe, and we are still reeling with shock over the manner of her death. This morning, we thought that at 78, she had passed away rather suddenly, because only 2 days ago she was on Mark Dolan's show here on Talk, full of beans, full of energy. She was a very lively figure up in Makerfield campaigning for reform during that by-election only recently. So we all knew that her death was sudden. And at 78, you know, of course you jump to conclusions, must have been natural, heart attack, whatever. Then, only a couple of hours ago, we discovered to our absolute shock that she is at the centre of a murder investigation, and that indeed her body was found in a pool of blood, and it looks as if she was bludgeoned to death. Full murder investigation going on by Devon and Cornwall police, and they are looking for a white male. Let's talk to someone who knew her well. He is head of campaigns at Popular Conservatism, but he worked with Anne during her Brexit Party days. He is Andrew Allison. Welcome, Andrew. Well, first of all, your thoughts on the most shocking news that I've come across some shocking news in my time, but the most shocking news that many of us have heard in many a long year.
Yes, Kevin. It's knocked me for six, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I was very shocked this morning when I heard that she died, because I knew she'd been on this station just a couple of days ago, and she'd done other media interviews at the beginning of the week. But people do die suddenly. I had a very close friend of mine die suddenly of a heart attack earlier this year. So these things do happen. But when this news was coming through a couple of hours ago, I just could not believe it. I mean, words completely fail me. It's horrific.
It is. It's really hard to get your head around it, isn't it? And I think, you know, I'm trying to sort of work out why. I mean, I didn't know her well, but I knew her. I had a very such a long professional relationship with her. She came on my shows a lot. We used to chat sometimes, so I liked her a lot. A formidable, scary woman, but actually very nice behind that tough exterior. And so I've been trying to sort of process my emotions, what I feel about it, and I know what it is now. I feel fury. A woman like that, with that remarkable life, that incredible career, should not die like that.
No, well, no one should ever really die like that unless they're involved in real criminal activity and are probably asking for it. No one should have to die like that. I mean, I got to know her during the European Parliament elections, rather, in 2019, and I only really sort of really spoke to her during that particular period of time. And there was one story. We were speaking at Featherstone Working Men's Club in West Yorkshire, what you would describe as a traditional Labour heartland, and I was her warm-up man. I went on before. I was pleased I was speaking before or not after her, put it that way. I mean, my speech went down very well, plenty of applause, standing ovation and all that, but when Anne started to walk towards the stage, I mean, good grief. There was an eruption of applause and cheers, and she just brought the house down as usual. In many ways, it was a masterclass in how to give a tub-thumping, barnstorming political speech. And my goodness, did she do it, Kevin?
Yeah, exactly.
And,
right. She was a superstar, she knew how to be a star. Listen, stay where you are, Andrew. We're going to play. We keep referring to the fact that only 2 days ago she was here on this station talking to Mark Dolan, and this would be her last interview on Talk, so we thought we might play a little clip of it. So this is Ann Widdecombe's last interview on Talk, and possibly her last interview on television or in broadcasting, but it was 2 days ago, and it was with Mark Dolan here. So let's have a quick listen.
I've got very little trust left now in parliamentary processes. And if you look at this government, which has a majority on that committee, look at the way that it's reacted when it's felt vulnerable, you know, changes to political donations, cancelling local elections. Nigel is challenging that establishment, and he's called this the establishment versus the people.
And always a joy and a deep privilege to have you on the show. We are your #1 fan. We look forward to catching up soon. My thanks to the redoubtable Ann Widdecombe, former Home Office Minister, broadcaster, best-selling author and politics legend.
So that's 48 hours ago, Andrew. Something quite shocking about that. I mean, look at her there, fine form.
Yeah, she was an absolute fine form, and I mean, she was elected to the European Parliament, as we all know. I was not, but I was asked by Brian Monteith, one of the Brexit Party MEPs for the North East, who was the chief whip in the European Parliament if I would go out there and work for him, which I did for about 5 months. I was based in Brussels and Strasbourg. So when we had the Strasbourg session in particular, her office was just down the corridor from mine, and we regularly bump into each other. And what I remember of it is that she was always there with a smile. She was always there with an encouraging word. She was always there to help people who were not as experienced as her. She was a generous person. But I think the public liked her so much because they knew where they stood with her. Whether you agree with Anne or whether you disagree with Anne on everything, you knew that what she was saying came from the heart. She genuinely believed in what she was saying. And she didn't go around slagging off political opponents. She was always courteous to her political opponents, to those with whom she disagreed. And that was the measure of her. And many people say when people die that you will not see the likes of them again, but I really think that that is the case with Anne. She really genuinely was a one-off, and not only is our political world poorer as a result of this very untimely death and this looks like vicious murder, the world is as well, and I hope that she rests in peace. Just like me, she was a Christian, and I hope that her soul rests in peace.
We all do, Andrew. What do you remember when you worked with her over in Brussels? What do you remember of her personally? What was she like to deal with?
Well, there were sort of two sides to Anne without being two sides. I mean, what you saw in public was what she was like in private, as a person. But of course, there was the quiet Anne and the supportive Anne. But when she then stood up on the stage, or the stage as we're seeing now on the screen in the European Parliament, well, that was vintage Anne, wasn't it? And I think that's what I remember the most. She was just, well, indomitable. I think Mark Dolan just used that word in the clip that you showed. She was forthright in her views, and no one was going to quieten her down. And when she spoke, it was a big physical thing, wasn't it? Her whole body, her whole heart and soul physically went into making those speeches, and I will certainly remember them very, very fondly.
Yeah, I mean, she was a hell of an orator. You're absolutely right. It was a physical. You could see it. She was going like this. So we remember her as a formidable, remarkable politician. Always spoke her mind. Probably too much, otherwise I think she might have risen higher up the ranks. But we'll also remember her, Andrew, as an absolutely abysmal dancer. Without a doubt, the worst dancer Strictly Come Dancing ever saw. But, as we keep saying, also probably the best sport that show ever saw. That summed her up, didn't it? I mean, she didn't mind that, and the nation loved her for her inability to do the tango.
Well, they did, didn't they? And I don't know how far she went. Was it through to about the semi-final?
Yeah, she did. She was one of those all the Puritans, the dance Puritans, were furious because the public kept voting her back in, even though she was quite clearly she had two left feet. She didn't even have that many. I don't think she was terrible,
she was very poor, Kevin, but she did love it. I mean, she genuinely did love it, and and of course, more people will know her from her time on Strictly Come Dancing than will have known about her during her whole political career, which rather sums it up. But of course, she went on into panto as well, didn't she? And she did all sorts of other reality TV series. So she had a real lease of life after she left Parliament in 2010. But she always stayed true to her beliefs, and that's what I will remember.
Yeah, and she revelled in her fame. I mean, she was... Nigel Farage said she was, without a doubt, the most famous female politician in Britain.
She did, but she never quite let it go to her head. I mean, she loved it, but she still kept that level-headedness about her.
Oh, she was down to earth, you could say that.
Yeah. So it never quite went to her head. I think with some people it does, but with Anne it never did. But she certainly enjoyed it, yes. Well, certainly.
Andrew, listen, very sorry about what's happened. We all are very shocked, and I agree with you. We hope that dear Ann Widdecombe rests in peace. She should not have had to die like that. Andrew Allison, Head of Campaigns at Popular Conservatism, thank you so much for coming on. Next up, we'll talk to Alan Miller. He's the co-founder of the Together Declaration, and we'll get his thoughts on the shocking news that it looks as if Ann Widdecombe was brutally murdered at her own home in Devon, in Dartmoor and Devon. So we'll talk about Anne with Alan Miller next. We're still waiting for this statement from the Devon and Cornwall police, who are investigating, full murder investigation going on. But we do know this much. They are searching, looking for a white male, and are appealing for any evidence, any witnesses, anything that anybody may have seen in the area. Obviously, they're going door to door in the village that she lived, the surrounding areas. But if anybody has seen anything, for God's sake, get in touch with the Devon and Cornwall police. Next up, we'll talk to Alan Miller. Stay tuned.
Labour, interestingly, saying they're considering an emergency law to deport that grooming gang leader. This is Shabir Ahmed, who served 14 years of his 22-year sentence for 30 child rape cases. He got less than 6 months. Basically, if you're going to be a child rapist, you know what, you may as well rape 40 instead of 1, because the sentence is basically the same. I mean, we're literally incentivising child sodding rapists.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Breaking news. Devon and Cornwall police are currently giving a statement. They're making a statement to the TV crews. We'll bring you details of that later. But the headline is a 26-year-old man has been arrested at an address in Newton Abbot on Friday, today, on suspicion of the murder of former MP Ann Widdecombe. This has been stated by Devon and Cornwall Police Assistant Chief Constable Matt Longman. So, a 26-year-old white British male has been arrested at an address in Newton Abbot on suspicion of the murder of former MP and former Cabinet Minister Ann Widdecombe. Big breaking news. Someone has been arrested for this. Let's go over to... We'll give you more details as they emerge from that press conference, which is being given by Assistant Police Chief Constable Matt Longman down there in Devon. So let's go over to my next guest. He is the co-founder of the Together Declaration, Alan Miller. Alan, welcome. Your thoughts on this absolutely devastating, shocking news that Ann Widdecombe has not only died, but appears to have been the victim of a brutal murder. Your thoughts?
I'm actually thoroughly stunned, Kevin. This morning I posted about Anne, about her great enthusiasm, her great British sense of a sense of humour and civility, meaning a robust, passionate, forthright commitment to the demos Kratia. I'm in Greece at the moment, and the idea of people power and her courage in fighting for what she believed in, her forthrightness, her sense of what it meant to put herself on the line, her courage, how she would give a lead. In one of the most important things that's happened in Britain ever around Brexit. Many people might disagree. The point is that she represented the foundational values that we all hold so dear around democracy, sovereignty, and a commitment to the idea that the public, the people, should be engaged and have a voice and be taken seriously. And I was very saddened when I heard about her passing, but now to hear this is just so ghastly and awful. I don't really know, I think we're all stunned. But one thing I want to say is that I want to hold on to and stand on the shoulders of the great work that she's done and the inspiration she's led so many with, this sense of what we can do if you put yourself out there. And you can also, in a civil fashion, that means really passionately as a warrior and as a champion, and arguing and disagreeing and ridiculing, but taking one another as citizens seriously and not trying to censor and shut down, as we're seeing this current Labour government doing, not trying to have social media bans and get everyone to digitally verify to protect the children, which is never going to do that, but to infantilise us. But that we as the British public deserve to have robust, open debate. We have much more that unites us, but we have very serious disagreements, and that needs to be thrashed out, not suffocated by a nanny state, by technocrats who want to just smear people like they did during Brexit. And I think we should hold on to what was best of Anne, Ann Widdecombe, who was a kind of champion, and also
she was a symbol of what Britain used to be and what Britain ought to be, where people could hold opinions and not be cancelled, could say what they thought, and people would listen, as opposed to the way people handle it now. While you're on, Alan, the Prime Minister Keir Starmer did make quite a generous statement, to be fair, earlier, but he was asked in a press conference about political violence. Let's have a listen.
The security of politicians is of the utmost importance, and we have enhanced it in recent years. It's really important we remain vigilant. I'm not going to speculate about this particular case. The Chief Constable has briefed me on the details as they're known at the moment, but I think it's very important for us to have in our thoughts the family and friends of Ann Widdecombe, and to be clear, the single most important thing at the moment is that the suspect is apprehended as quickly as possible by the police. And I urge everybody listening or watching this who's got any information at all which may be of assistance to the police to come forward to make sure that someone who is clearly dangerous is apprehended as quickly as possible, and the police investigation can proceed on that basis.
Well, Alan, as we now know, subsequent to Starmer's statement there, a suspect has been arrested. We don't know if he is the perpetrator yet, and we don't know in any way what the actual reason for this horrific potential murder, alleged murder, was. But we shouldn't really speculate, but if it was politically motivated, it will reinvigorate the argument about the protection of prominent MPs or prominent politicians. Nigel Farage in particular at the moment the centre of a debate about his own security. Your thoughts about that?
Well, it will, and I think regardless, security is a serious issue. We saw what happened with David Amess and with Joe Cox. And some people are flippant and cavalier and dismissive, but Nigel Farage has consistent threats on his security and livelihood. We know right now there is the trial going on about Charlie Kirk's murder. We've seen what happened there. We've seen what happened with Salman Rushdie and the attacks. We've seen Charlie Hebdo. We've seen the attacks on freedom, and we've seen the attacks on our politicians. And it's, you know, the idea that he had 75% of his promised funding from Parliament taken away, actually, just in the week after Charlie Kirk was assassinated and murdered brutally, when people were celebrating those things, ghastly for someone who wanted to discuss democracy and freedom and talk about opposing ideas with young people. I mean, just truly shocking. So I think we have to be very serious about it. I've posted separately about where I think the double standards are, about what's going on with the parliamentary committee, about comments that some of the MPs have made already about Nigel Farage, about Islamophobia, and about other things, about GB News, about his views on Iran and other. They're not impartial. Neither, it seems to me, would it be fair to say that all the lay people are, because they've been involved in other things like the NHS. We know that DEI and ESG and Brexit have all been hot button issues. And we know also that actually Kevin Hollinrake is currently under investigation by the Commissioner. I don't see much in the press about that. He's obviously innocent until proven guilty, but there's always a kind of feeding frenzy around Nigel Farage. Ironically, that will probably get him some more support. But this is very serious. When people say that words are violence, and people think that we're not fellow citizens and that if you've got a different view, you're evil, then these things, regardless of what happened in this instance, right, then these things have dire consequences. People get attacked for their political views. It's absolutely unacceptable. We need to insist on being able to thrashing out ideas, but no physical violence. We've got to be bigger than that. We must deal with it rigorously. And I really want to say that, you know, just now I'm seeing people being censored and banned again from X. One post that was made to Darren Jones, someone's been taken down for that. Other people have said ghastly things about Ann Widdecombe. I made the point to them, I don't want them censored and taken down. I hope they have some shame. I think they're disgraceful. But we need to be able to not suffocate and shutter the whole of society. And this thing about violence to those we don't agree with, we've seen it happen in a range of issues now. We're seeing things like Antifa.
I mean, if you go on to Blue Sky at the moment, which is supposed to be the Be Kind social media site for all those lovely, generous left-wing people, it's full of people saying dancing on her grave. Trans activists saying thank God she's gone. Peter Tatchell launching an assault on her, at least a verbal assault, as it were. To be fair, Tatchell at the time when he posted did not know that it looks as if she'd been murdered. He thought she'd just passed away. But nevertheless, these people just attacking Ann Widdecombe, who's died in the most awful circumstances just because they didn't agree with her. That goes to the heart, in my view, of what is wrong with modern Britain. Whatever happened to civilised debate? We've turned into a nation of savages, I think.
Well, I think the problem has been those that want to cancel and those that want to smear people and say, if you hold this view, you're reprehensible, you're evil. And that means that if your words are violence, if it's the same thing, then I'm going to be violent towards you. And unfortunately, we've seen it on what they call the left now, and it's unacceptable.
Yeah, it is, Alan. Alan, I've got to move on, but thank you very, very much for coming on. He's right, Alan, isn't he? It is unacceptable what's going on Blue Sky. Dancing on Ann Widdecombe's grave. Absolute disgrace. Next up, Gerald Howarth will join us to give us his view.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Tributes pouring in amid the shock news that Ann Widdecombe appears to have been brutally murdered at her home on Dartmoor in Devon. A 26-year-old man has been arrested in Newton Abbot on suspicion of killing her. Devon and Cornwall Police Assistant Chief Constable Matt Longman has just announced that at a press conference. But amid the tributes, everyone is just reeling, absolutely reeling. It's almost inconceivable. It's very difficult to get your head around the fact. It was sad and tragic. We learned this morning that she'd died. In fact, I heard last night. But, you know, she's a 78-year-old woman. We assumed, you know, that, you know, she died in the way that 78-year-old people sometimes do. Because she'd been on Mark Dolan's show here on Talk. She was a regular guest here, a very popular guest among presenters, including me. She'd been on Mark Dolan's show 2 days ago, just 2 days ago, full of beans. She was in Makerfield campaigning for reform a few weeks back, a bundle of energy. So we knew that her death must have been sudden. But, of course, it was only about 3 or 4 hours ago that it emerged that, in fact, it looks as if she was slaughtered, brutally murdered. She was found in a pool of blood. Her head had been bludgeoned, it is alleged. Let's go over to my next guest, another, shall we say, veteran Tory who knew Anne well. And no doubt is sharing the shock of all of us. He is Sir Gerald Howarth, former Conservative Security Minister. Welcome, Gerald. I mean, it's hard to get your head around this, but your initial thoughts?
Absolutely appalled and disgusted. I woke up this morning to the news that Ann Widdecombe had died, and I was shocked. She is the same age as me. And I had seen her not that long ago, and she looked perfectly well. Like me, she was a member of the Royal Air Force Club, and I used to see her there, and I had no reason to believe that she had become ill. So it was a shock. And as you've just been showing, she was active in the Makerfield by-election. And so one was taken aback, but then to hear that she was murdered, I think is utterly disgusting. And I hope the whole nation will respond to the Prime Minister's very, very good and very sensible suggestion that we all come together, because the nation needs politicians, because they are the people responsible for directing the history of this country, this great country of ours. This sort of activity, activities we've seen, Joe Cox did, Sir David Amess, also a great friend of mine, not to mention what happened to Lord Tebbit and his wife and others in the bombing of the Grand Hotel by terrorists. And we're not talking about terrorism in today's tragedy. But this is what people in public life are going through.
The police are saying that...
Sorry, Kevin, can I just ask you, you could turn up the volume a bit? I'm a bit struggling to hear you.
I can't do it. I'll try to talk louder. I don't have any dials here. The police are saying that there is no suggestion that this was a politically motivated crime. As I say, they've arrested a suspect, a 26-year-old white male in Newton Abbot, and we know no more than that. That may not even be the actual perpetrator of the crime, so we mustn't speculate there. But I interviewed Sir Roger Gale earlier, and I thought this was a real indication of the sign of the times. And suddenly, so he's talking about his two greatest friends in politics, because the three of them were great animal lovers. His two greatest friends in politics were Sir David Amess and Ann Widdecombe, both it looks as if, well, we know David Amess was brutally murdered. It looks as if Anne was brutally murdered as well. I mean, that is a sad comment on not only modern politics in Britain, but modern Britain, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I mean, political assassination is not new. We ought to acknowledge that. I mean, it's happened throughout the centuries. But politicians today, unlike our predecessors, do live in a goldfish bowl, and people tend to know where we live. And so if they are annoyed, angry, increasingly people are becoming violent. And I think this is very bad news for society.
Yeah.
Somebody like Ann Widdecombe, who's not just a politician, everybody knows she was one of the most feisty people I ever knew, and great fun, utterly committed to the things she believed in, with which I did not always agree. I was not on the same side as her on the question of fox hunting. I believe that is something that should be left to the people engaged in rural activities to decide for themselves. But on many other issues, Anne and I were aligned.
People liked her, didn't they, Gerald?
Committed and principled, but she was also great fun, as everybody saw.
I mean, the tributes coming in from all sides of the political fence, as it were, prove that, you know, despite the fact that many people didn't agree with her, everybody liked her. There was something, you know, extraordinary, remarkable about this woman. Your assessment of her political career, which was turbulent, but I think astonishing. What will you remember most about her politics?
What I remember most about Ann Widdecombe was her complete devotion to principle. She was a principled conviction politician who said what she believed. She said it forthrightly. Everybody knew where she stood. And I think the fact that, as you just mentioned, politicians from across the board have paid tribute to her, I think that that is very encouraging. And that was even before the news of the brutal murder. We just all thought that she had died and not been murdered. But everybody has come together. I will remember that. But I have a number of memories of her, one of which was when she was Shadow Home Secretary. I had gone down to Dartmoor Prison with a Labour MP, Stephen Pound, a very great man, and we were doing a television programme about being a prison officer. We had the keys to Dartmoor, and Stephen and I went down there, and we spent 3 days there. And on the train back to London, I rang Anne and said, Anne, I've just been in Dartmoor, and I've come to the conclusion, I used to be a lock 'em up and throw away the key man, but I've changed my view, and I have come to the conclusion we need to rehabilitate prisoners. We cannot spend all this money banging them up and not trying to get them back on the rails. Am I a heretic? And Anne said, no, Gerald, you are not. That is absolutely right. So that is one of my abiding memories. The other is that I was in the Royal Air Force Club, and I bumped into her, and I said, Lord, know you had Royal Air Force connections? And Anne told me, well, she'd been booted out of the Tory party. She'd been booted out of the Carlton Club, the Tory club, in consequence. And she'd been addressing a meeting at the Royal Air Force Club. Don't know on what subject. It might have been on Strictly Come Dancing. I don't know. But anyway, she was speaking at a meeting at the Royal Air Force Club, and she happened to mention that
she was
no longer had a
clubless
place in London, and the Royal Air Force Club reached out to her and gave her membership.
Fantastic.
So well done, the Royal Air Force Club.
Excellent. Listen, we've just got a statement from Kemi Badenoch. Bear with us, Gerald. You can listen to it as well. Here is the Tory leader responding to the shocking news of Ann Widdecombe's death.
I've been stunned to hear this awful news. To be honest, I've really struggled to find the words to say. Ann Widdecombe was a very fun and feisty woman who spoke her mind, and she was 78 years old. She was an elderly woman. I don't understand how someone could do something so horrific to an elderly person. It is a nasty, horrific attack, and my heart is breaking for her family. It's one thing when someone dies, but to know that they've been murdered in this horrible horrible way is just awful. The Conservative Party is reeling. Anne was a long-standing member of the Conservative Party. She was a Conservative minister, and then she moved to Reform, of course. As we know, I'm sure that they are just as stunned as we are, and I extend my condolences to Nigel Farage and everyone in Reform on behalf of the Conservative Party, because we've both lost a friend.
Well said, Kemi Badenoch. Boris Johnson, Gerald has tweeted, I am sad to hear about the loss of Ann Widdecombe, a heroic Brexiteer and a great speaker who could move Tory audiences to such ecstasy that she was a very hard act to follow. She was extraordinary, wasn't she?
She was, yeah. And she was hugely popular, largely because she was so forthright and articulate in what she stood for. And I think that there's a growing demand out there for authenticity. People are fed up with politicians saying one thing and doing something else, or even saying one thing to one group of people and something to another group of people. I think that the public, they may not always agree with what you say, but if you argue your case sensibly and you obviously believe in it, I think that most people in this country say, well, I don't agree, but fair dues. They've said what they believe, and of course, Anne was a committed Christian. She left the Church of England. I've not done so. I'm church warden here in the village of Chelsworth in Suffolk, and I've not left the Church of England. Do not intend to leave the Church of England for the Catholic Church, where she joined Jacob Rees-Mogg, as you've just heard. But she was an utterly committed Christian, but she wore her Christianity lightly on her sleeve, and so everybody knew she was sincere, profound, principled, feisty, but also she was jolly good fun.
Did you watch Strictly Come Dancing when she... I'm going to put it this way, I'm not going to beat her about the book, but when she disgraced the dance floor, she was by far and away the worst dancer ever on Strictly Come Dancing, but a remarkably good sport, and the nation loved her, and I think she loved it too, dancing away, if you could call it that, with Anton de Beck. Do you remember that?
Well, I actually, Kevin, I really couldn't bring myself to watch it, I have to say. I haven't told Anne that, but I couldn't bear it. And Anton de Beek is such a great dancer, such a great man, and I think the fact that he was so gentlemanly with Anne is a tribute to him. And I mean, just an example of two things. One, Anne's just her determination. She knew she wasn't the Vogue pin-up, but she cast it on one side. But she was very straightforward, but determined to go on, but also extremely courteous. And I think that's what we've heard from Labour. Because I saw Luke Pollard, who is one of the defence ministers. As you know, I was a defence minister. Yeah. He got the job at the moment. And Luke Pollard said that, he stood against Anne, or Anne stood against him in 2019. And despite the fact that he's a gay Remainer, she was very courteous to him. And she, of course, being an arch Brexiteer like me, so we had that in common as well. She was, as I say, just very good fun, utterly principled. And we need more politicians like that. People who are kind of real, people of substance, not wooden people who just read out what's handed out to them by their respective party headquarters.
Yeah, they don't make them like Ann Widdecombe anymore. I mean, she was a one-off, but politics used to be full of big figures, big characters, impressive characters. And we've lost one of them, and you just don't see people like Ann Widdecombe anymore, do you?
Yeah, absolutely, but there's a reason for this. They feel intimidated. They feel unless they say... I mean, everybody is paranoid about saying the wrong thing.
Social media especially.
Criticising immigration, criticising multiculturalism, and I take two of the principal examples that are of real concern to the people of this country, and certainly a concern to me. I mean, most people are absolutely terrified of saying the wrong thing for fear of losing their jobs. That's one of the reasons why I'm outspoken. I ain't got a job to lose. No longer being in the House of Commons.
Yeah.
The whips can't get a hold of me. They can't do anything to me. Not that they did much to me when I was in the House, in fairness. But I think it's becoming incredibly difficult. You say the wrong thing, or you say something privately, and somebody picks it up. And so the whole might of the press comes down on you, and your party comes down on you, and you get suspended and all this. For God's sake, let's grow up and have a free society where people can express their views freely. Obviously, there are limitations. Do not incite violence. Do not libel people without evidence. So there are limitations, but I'm a member of the Free Speech Union. I think Lord Toby Young is doing a brilliant job at the Free Speech Union.
Agreed.
I think it's a major threat to our country. But you won't get people like Ann Widdecombe because they're too fearful of being hauled before some tribunal for saying something that's not thought to be politically correct at the moment. This wokeism's got to stop.
Yeah,
the free society has got to be re-established, and free speech has got to be re-established.
I'll give you an example as we part company, Gerald. Thank you very much for coming on in these sad circumstances. But a story emerged yesterday, and I was thinking about getting Ann Widdecombe on because she would have been the perfect guest as a former prisons minister. I would have loved to get her view on this. There's a prison called Moorland Prison, and they have just hired, stories emerged, they hired a drag queen to entertain sex offender convicts on LGBT Sports Day at this prison. And this Sports Day event, drag queen entertaining sex offenders, was staged to celebrate Moorland Prison's diversity. I wonder what Ann Widdecombe would have thought about that.
Well, probably unprintable, but load of bollocks, I think, might have been the sort of thing that she would have thought it was.
Yeah, Gerald,
as my great friend Christine Hamilton said this morning, that Anne was a battle axe. What is a battle axe? Women with balls.
Very well said. And we're going to leave your indiscretion on air because people can deal with it. Thank you very much, Gerald. Thank you so much for coming on. The brilliant Sir Gerald Howarth there, former security minister who knew Ann Widdecombe very well, veteran Tory, of course, dating back to the Thatcher days. Now, let's go to break. When we come back, phone only, but we're very pleased that Baroness Kate Hoey will join us, and we need to talk about, of course, Kate was very close with Anne during their Brexiteer days. They both came from different sides of the House. Kate, of course, veteran Labour, Anne Tory, moving to the Brexit Party. So we'll get Kate's view on her old friend Anne after these messages. Stay tuned.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest. We are, of course, concentrating this entire show on the shocking news that political colossus Ann Widdecombe, former Tory minister, Brexit Party firebrand, determined leader, a woman who spoke her own mind and she didn't care who didn't like what she had to say, has not only died, it looks as if she's been brutally murdered. A white guy has been arrested in Newton Abbot, 26-year-old, after Anne's body was found yesterday morning, we believe, covered in blood at her home in Devon on Dartmoor there. So let's go over to my next guest. She is a former Labour MP for Vauxhall, another determined Brexiteer, Kate Hoey. Kate, well, thank you very much for joining us. Just straight away, your thoughts and your reaction to the shocking news about Ann Widdecombe that, frankly, we're all trying to get our heads around. I mean, I just can't quite... I can't quite digest it, if you know what I mean.
No, well, I was wakened up by a friend this morning telling me that she died, and I was shocked because I'd seen her just a couple of weeks ago at the book launch of the Nigel Farage book, and we'd had a lovely chat, and we actually ended up by us both agreeing. We were talking about getting old, and she was saying, "Well, at least we're both here," And then later this afternoon, hearing that, I mean, it was just numbing. It was just so shocking to hear that, first of all, that there was potentially something had happened that wasn't natural, and then to hear that, it was obviously she's been murdered, and there's a suspect being arrested, which is good if that's the case, but it's. As a person, I mean, I really, really liked Anne, and anyone who knew her well knew that, behind that facade of being sort of abrupt and grumpy sometimes and outspoken, she was incredibly kind and, just a nice person. But she didn't play to the gallery, so
yeah, that's
people
true.
would get a different view of her. And
well, you were a pretty formidable campaigner for Brexit, and so was Anne. That must have been when you forged a close friendship during those days. Tell us,
yes, absolutely.
Tell us about her then.
We'd been on different sides on the hunting debate, which you made back to 2005. Anne was very keen to ban hunting, and I was supporting hunting. So we were totally on the opposite sides. And her party was supporting, was against banning, and it was, we were so we knew each other then. And then during the Leave campaign, obviously got to know each other. And then more recently, Anne was particularly good on standing up for the fact that Northern Ireland had been left out of leaving the European Union. And she came over to do a rally in Northern Ireland against the protocol, the Windsor Framework, and it went down, so well because it was actually in an orange hall. And of course, there were a lot of people thought because Anne was such a devout Roman Catholic, that, you know, she would never appear in an orange hall. And she just came in and it was amazing the way she got everyone to be absolutely on her side, got a standing ovation.
She was extraordinary. Can I just stop you there, okay? I just want to play, you might have been there, I don't know, but we want to play one of her finest moments, one of her firebrand speeches at the European Parliament. This is amazing. Let's, well, you listen to it, we'll watch it.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Oh, it is. She had a wonderful, wonderful rallying voice, the way when she was doing something, and when she believed in it passionately, you know, she got everyone to be with her. I'm sure there were members of the Parliament at that speech who just were absolutely gobsmacked, you know, that someone could come out with such wonderful, wonderful language and make her point so strongly. But you know, we all will remember her for different things, and I mean, I'm still at the stage where I just can't believe it. You know,
we all are absolutely shocked. You know, no one deserves to die like that, but there's something particularly shocking when such a remarkable person dies in such horrific circumstances. What will you remember about her, if you like, off stage as a friend? You know, I was talking to various people who know her well throughout the afternoon, and you know, they've all been saying. Well, Nigel Farage said, you know, she was great fun to go out for a drink with. Don't get the idea that she was just this austere woman. That she liked to party.
Oh no, she was complete. That's what I said, you know, earlier. She was completely different from what the sort of image that she had, certainly when she was active in politics in Westminster. Obviously, she then had her time of deciding that she wanted to show a different face by doing, you know, the dancing and all of that.
If you could call it that.
No, she. Well, yes.
She was not a great dancer. I think she would be the first. But the nation loved her for her, shall we say, her pluckiness. Yeah.
Yeah, she made a lot of fun of, you know, that she didn't call it dancing, but she was just, you know, a very to be with her was. You know, you didn't have a moment of ever thinking that you could possibly not want to continue discussing whatever you were discussing and doing whatever you were doing. You know, she was also very good. I remember when at that particular rally, you know, she was people were coming up and wanting to speak to her, and she was very, very good at, you know, it wasn't social chit-chat. She was actually very good at just engaging with them right away, and you know, on a political issue, but in a way that people understood and felt that she was really listening to them.
Last question to you, Kate. We're just cutting the film at the moment, but I'll just tell you what's happened. There's a bit of a storm going on now. Adam Bolton, the redoubtable former political editor of Sky News, now a commentator, does a lot of work for Times Radio, our sister station. He's gone on to Sky News and he's referred to Ann Widdecombe as he knew that she was being, you know, the subject of a murder investigation. He knew by now how she died. He referred to her as a spinster and an old maid. Quite a storm brewing about that. I don't think he should have said that, should he?
I don't know what seems to have happened to him in recent time. I've seen various nasty things that he's done recently, and I mean, someone who can come on and, you know, I understand he probably didn't like her, he didn't respect her views, he didn't do any of that, but there's absolutely no need. Why go on? No, why go on and talk about her when in a situation, you know, which the family and everyone's feeling so devastated? It's just just unspeakable that someone like him with that experience of being involved in broadcasting could behave like that.
It's just the wrong thing to say, given it's the wrong thing to say after anyone has died, but given the circumstances, which he knew well,
Mind you, I have to say that I suppose if Ann Widdecombe could speak now, she would probably say, "Yes, I am an old maid."
Well, listen, while you're there, Kate. While you're there, though, Kate, we have now managed to edit this little interjection by Adam Bolton, so you can have a quick listen to it.
But she was very much a spinster. I mean, by the end, I think you probably describe her as an old maid. Reportedly, she claimed that she was a virgin. She had a relationship at university. She went to Oxford University into an all-women's college, of course.
You know, I just don't think that's right to say something like that under the circumstances. Do you, Kate?
Well, no, I don't, and I don't. I think that that kind of discussion, that kind of talk at any time about someone is not particularly nice way of talking about someone. But actually, to do it in that situation, I mean, I can just imagine how family would feel if they heard that. No, I think that I hope he realizes that he's made an idiot of himself, and actually people will really look now to think, what on earth is he doing?
They are not liking it. It is causing quite a storm. Kate Hoey, thank you so much for coming on. Always good to talk to you. That's Baroness Kate Hoey there, independent peer and Brexiteer, former Labour MP, very close friend of Ann Widdecombe. They came from opposite sides of the House. Kate, of course, veteran Labour. And veteran Tory Brexit, but they came together in the Leave campaign and forged a very close friendship. That's the thing you're learning about Ann Widdecombe today. She had a lot of severe political opponents, but they all kind of liked her. Well, they all liked her, simple as that, because she was always very civil, very polite in the way she went about political discourse, political debate. You don't see that all that often these days. We will go to break now. When we come back, we'll talk to the former government political violence advisor, former Labour MP as well, Lord Walney. We'll get his thoughts on what's happened next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to this special and very sad edition of Drive Time. We've devoted the entire show, I think quite rightly, to the shocking death of Ann Widdecombe, the political colossus. Extraordinary woman who appears at the age of 78 to have been brutally murdered at her home, a bungalow on Dartmoor in Devon. The Devon and Cornwall police have arrested a 26-year-old white male in Newton Abbot on suspicion of murder. And the Assistant Chief Constable of that police force, Matt Longman, has stressed that there was no though there is no information at this time to suggest that the murder of Ann Widdecombe was a politically motivated crime. There is also the police stressing no suggestion of terrorism either, but at this stage, who knows? You know, these are very early stages, but they have arrested a white male. Ann Widdecombe, of course, found in her home yesterday morning in a pool of blood and had been seriously, violently attacked. That was clear. Bludgeoned in the head, we understand. Terrible end to an astonishing and incredible life. Let's talk to former government political violence advisor, former Labour MP, Lord Walney. Welcome to the show, Lord Walney.
Good evening, Kevin.
Well, let me play, first of all, as I say, we're going to be careful here. We don't know what the reason for this shocking attack on, well, apparent murder of Ann Widdecombe was, but it does bring in to play, if you like, a discussion about political violence. I was interviewing Sir Roger Gale earlier, who was talking about being his two best friends in politics were David Amess and Ann Widdecombe, both of whom were murdered. I mean, that says something in itself. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, spoke earlier about political violence. If you don't mind, watch this.
The security of politicians is of the utmost importance, and we have enhanced it in recent years. It's really important we remain vigilant. I'm not going to speculate about this particular case. The Chief Constable has briefed me on the details as they're known at the moment, but I think it's very important for us to have in our thoughts the family and friends of Ann Widdecombe, and to be clear, the single most important thing at the moment is that the suspect is apprehended as quickly as possible by the police. And I urge everybody listening or watching this who's got any information at all which may be of assistance to the police to come forward to make sure that someone who is clearly dangerous is apprehended as quickly as possible, and the police investigation can proceed on that basis.
Lord Warney, before we discuss political violence, which may or may not be relevant in this case, just your thoughts about this truly horrific death of, you know, whatever your politics, she was a remarkable woman. Just your thoughts.
Yes, it's absolutely horrible news. And Widdecombe had entrenched herself as a household name since leaving elected politics or leaving the House of Commons. I mean, she was truly one of the people that I think the overwhelming majority of people I know who were maybe not interested in politics at all. They all knew Ann Widdecombe. They knew she was a character, and I didn't get a chance to know her personally, but I've heard many people talk before, even today, about what a charming and engaging person she could be. So this is a moment that will shake people from all walks of life. And you saw the way that the coverage shouldn't suddenly change, because I think there was an implicit assumption when her death was just announced. She was 78 years old. I mean, you could have maybe expected her to live many years, but many people do pass away naturally around about that day. So we thought we were celebrating her life, and then that shock of suddenly hearing that she has been murdered in clearly a violent, horrible fashion is really genuinely going to shake many millions of people across the country.
Absolutely. Politically, I'm sure that as a former Labour MP, you probably didn't agree with her all that often, but she was, I think politicians from all sides of the House respected her because of the integrity of her convictions. And she didn't actually mind not towing the party line. I mean, she was way out of step with the Tories on fox hunting, for example, which she was bitterly opposed to. I once had a row with her on air because she said that she couldn't see any harm in having trans women in prisons, as in, you know, biological males, as long as they'd had the surgery. So she could have, you know, her worldview was nuanced, and she didn't always hold the views that you might expect of her.
Yes, that's right. She was a woman of genuine conviction, and that shone through. And she was more than a kind of paper cutout right winger. And I think that is one of the reasons why she resonated so much. And I think that people are, you know, that politics has got a terrible name at the moment. People are generally sick of mainstream politicians, and they want to see people who genuinely believe in their views and stand by them. And one of the things, you know, you could see the clips there. She could put a view forward really passionately, but she was not aggressive and nasty in the way.
She's always
that
very polite, but always very civil to people. Yes,
yeah,
indeed.
exactly. And I think that was clearly the case in people's personal interactions, but actually that was part of her public, the way that she did politics publicly as well. She held her views very strongly. She would not be pushed off some often controversial views. And you've seen some people online today saying some really awful things about her because of her views, but she never took that approach towards her opponents, which I think speaks very, very well of her character.
Yes, it does. Well, let's talk about political violence. Obviously, you're a former government advisor on that. As I say, we don't know what the cause of her violent death was. At the moment, the police seem to be ruling out politics, but we don't know yet. But this shocking murder will, of course, reignite the debate on the safety of politicians, violence against them. You know, Nigel Farage's personal security is very much in the news at the moment. Do we have to have a serious look, another look at security protection for politicians? Because, you know, as I say earlier, it's a kind of... It really brings it home, talking to Sir Roger Gale, talking about his two best friends in politics, David Amess and Ann Widdecombe, both of whom have been murdered. We do need to talk about violence in politics and the protection of politicians, don't we?
Yes, we do. Well, whenever, naturally, when someone who has been such a high-profile politician, and let's remember, actually, that she held that role of justice spokesman for the Reform Party. So she did have an active role now. She's maybe less high profile than she had been, but she was part of the debate. And whenever someone is killed in these scenarios, inevitably people think of the scale of the vulnerability and the threats that so many frontline politicians are facing. You mention Sir David Amess, my friend Joe Cox, of course, was killed just over 10 years ago now. We've just had the 10th anniversary of losing Joe. Before that, there was Sir Stephen Timms, who is
was macheted, wasn't he? Yes.
Very thankfully is still a frontline politician and has carried on with his job. But he was stabbed in, and so they remind us that actually people who put themselves forward do so at risk to themselves, and that is any violence, any murder of another human being is abhorrent. But why I think we should have a particular focus on politicians being killed in the line of work is that it is central to our democracy, to the health of a country which decides through debate and through people showing their support or opposition to things by voting for issues or voting for the people who take those issues forward. That system only works if you can protect people from violence, because if there is a way that you can use the threat of force to get your way, that is completely anathema to having a healthy democracy. And so whenever a politician is killed for their beliefs or for the positions that they stand for, it is a really significant blow to the democracy that we should rightly be proud of and hold dear in this country.
Absolutely, well said. Really good to have you on the show. Thank you so much for your time, Lord Walney. That's Lord Walney, former government political violence advisor. He is also the former Labour MP John Woodcock, so good to talk to him. We're going to go to break now. When we come back, we'll talk to former Fleet Street editor, columnist at The Sun, old friend of mine, David Wooding, next. Big-time political journalist, big on the Westminster scene. He will have known Anne very well. We'll get his take on what's happened today, the shocking murder of Ann Widdecombe after a remarkable career and an extraordinary life. We'll talk to Dave Wooding next. Stay tuned.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Sun columnist, former Fleet Street editor David Wooding, a colossus of the Westminster political scene, former political editor of The Sun, David Wooding, is in the studio. Your thought, you and we've covered a few shocking stories in our time, but this one, man, I was really stunned by it. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. I was in the Sun newsroom when the word came through that our crime editor had picked up from his contacts that she may have been murdered, because like everybody else, I heard the story this morning on the radio when I woke up, on the TV, saying that she died, and I just thought, oh, didn't know she'd been ill, just took it.
Well, she was on this
very
station 2 days ago.
Exactly. And
full of beans.
Apparently, the Daily Express, where she does a column, had been ringing her and didn't get a response to try and probably obviously talk about her column. So when I heard it was, I thought, oh, maybe she'd had an accident.
Yeah, he'd fallen over.
And the wrong end, the coroner's involved, and there's wrong end of the stick being taken. But then when it was actually confirmed, I was absolutely dumbstruck because it was absolutely shocking.
Exactly right. Listen, before I get your assessment of her extraordinary life and her remarkable political career and her dancing on Strictly Come Dancing, Adam Bolton, former Sky editor, who now works here a lot in this building for Times Radio, he's been giving his assessment, and he's caused quite a storm for this reason. Let's have a look at this.
But she was very much a spinster. I mean, by the end, I think you'd probably describe her as an old maid. Reportedly, she claimed that she was a virgin. She had a relationship at university. She went to Oxford University, into an all-women's college, of course.
So this is causing quite a storm because Adam, when he said that, was well aware of the fact that she'd been murdered. And people just think that's a very inappropriate thing to do, call her an old maid and a spinster.
Yes. It's not the language I would use when describing somebody who had just died. I mean, she was quite self-effacing about herself.
Well, Kate Hoey said, well, she'd probably say that about herself.
Yeah, she did. She said, she used to say I was a toothy, overweight, single, what did she call, spinster. Yeah, she made fun of herself like that. But I think when somebody dies, you have to be a little bit generous.
Just going to break off here, Dave, because there's breaking news, which I suppose I should give you. The King and Queen hosted the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet at Highgrove House today. It is understood, which means at least the King got to see his grandchildren for the first time in 4 years. I'm just going to leave that there. To be honest with you, I think we've all had enough of that saga, but I'm glad the King got to see his grandchildren at long last. So let's get back to this story. Your assessment of her political career, Dave?
Oh, she was a one-off, really was a one-off, Kevin, because she said what she thought, and a lot of her political views were not fashionable. She was a Roman Catholic. She was a pro-life.
Against abortion.
She hated abortion. She wanted to bring back the death penalty. She said a lot of things that people would agree with. I guess a lot of people would want to bring back the death penalty, but she said a lot of things that people.
She was against the unshackling of female prisoners when they were giving birth.
Absolutely, yes. That was
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh at that.
That was one of her biggest controversies. The other one, of course, was when. Michael Howard was Home Secretary and she was a junior minister at Home Office, and she said he had something of the night about him.
From which he never recovered.
Well, every time he appeared in one of the less friendly newspapers, they did him up as Dracula with the big cape and the darkened eyes and everything, which suited him quite well. And I do know, because I knew Ann Widdecombe well and I knew Michael Howard really well, and I know for a fact that they became close friends afterwards, despite that quite fierce rivalry and nastiness even between them. They actually grew to be quite close friends.
You must have known of when you were a political editor in Westminster. I mean, I knew her a bit. We used to have her on. One of my favourite guests. She was a journalist's dream, wasn't she? I keep saying no comment wasn't in her vocabulary.
No, she would say exactly what she thought and didn't pull her punches. In fact, I remember having lunch with her once, and I think she may have been at the Department for Health or something, and I said something rather bland about, well, why don't you just think about doing this, or do you think you might have this wrong? Because, and just, you know, friendly, off the record, and she suddenly went into me. She said, "There you go again, typical of the media. You're talking rubbish. You've got all your facts wrong." And she started really railed against me across the table. And this is just a friendly, off the record lunch. We hadn't even started on the meal. So yes, she was quite fearsome woman.
I'll tell you what's interesting, what is emerging today is that, you know, there are a lot of politicians, particularly of the left, who, you know, vehemently disagree with almost everything she ever said or thought. But everybody liked her. She managed to maintain political enmity but personal friendship.
Absolutely, and Keir Starmer, of course, led the tributes, and it's quite right that at times like this, political animosity should be put to one side. It's a shame that people on social media who are not even connected with politics, who just decide they hate somebody for whatever reason, are happy just to dance on people's grave, and I just think those people are best ignored because they're really at the bottom of the pile.
I just don't get it. I mean, you know, the trans lobby, the trans extremists, if you like. I mean, of course they don't like her viewpoints, and well, they might not. But you know, if you go on to Blue Sky, the social media site where everyone is left wing and that's where you go to be kind, it is full of trans activists in particular, gay activists as well, just dancing on her grave. It's extraordinary.
Well, in politics, I mean, this is the thing I've had working in politics. You learn to work with these people of different views and respect them as human beings, as long as they're kind and friendly, and they're quite entitled to have these political views. And a lot of her political views were based on her deep Christian faith. And you know, she believed in what she stood for, and she was true to her beliefs.
Absolutely. Breaking news, Ann Widdecombe, this is Nigel Farage's added to his earlier statement. He said that Ann Widdecombe's death and subsequent police murder investigation is, and I quote, a terrible reflection on modern Britain. He added that he now feared that for anybody in public life, or especially the political space, things had become even more dangerous to them. Now, we should qualify that with the fact that Devon and Cornwall police are saying at this stage there is no indication that the motivation for this terrible murder was political or that it may have been terrorism. That said, we don't quite know yet. But Nigel Farage has got a point, hasn't he?
He has got a point, and it is dangerous. They're the two big questions, apart from who did it and whether bringing that person to justice. But one of the questions is what happened, and the second one is, are we giving enough protection to our politicians, serving MPs and peers and former MPs? That is an important question, because never have our elected representatives faced so much violent attacks, both verbally and physically in some cases, and they must be protected. But again, we don't know whether she was just a victim of crime or whether it was deliberately aimed for political reasons. And until we know that, it's too early to jump to conclusions.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I've got to stress